All right, welcome to Roleplay Cafe. This is Dark Age of Man Chronicle, Session 2, A Great Divide. Last session we left off, Sylvester had taken into custody, so to speak, the Dredgewater Downs proprietor of Washburn Arms as a potential traitor and for a relationship with Jarek, a druid pagan who he has learned through Martin is amassing in a way, a pagan army that is going to be a protective force to the Christians if so called upon, is what he's learned from Martin. Ethelweld committed a miracle in the middle of the night and has been inundated with peasants demanding blessings and prayers and touching him, and they want to touch him. They want to be close to this miracle worker. And Vidar had led a group of vigilantes to Sylvester and has helped Sylvester bring a wagon load of food back to Dredgewater. We will pick up with Sylvester and what transpired between the travels back to Dredgewater with the wagon.
All right, so as we're making our way back towards Dredgewater, I'm going to be up in front with John, our captain, and trying to get out in front of everybody a little bit as we're blazing the trail back. And I just kind of turn to him and not really bold-facedly, but, just turn to him and say, how do you feel about how things are in Dredgewater right now?
Well, things are very dangerous. The dilemma between the Christians and this pagan, these new pagan rituals, these druids that have appeared, they make for dangerous times. I think, and Lord and Lady Washburn have much to deal with the famine. As you may have noticed, Lord Washburn is, let's face it, he has much fear about potential revolt.
I'll reach into my underneath my gambeson and pull out one of the apples that I have, secreted from this cart, and offer it to him. And I say, "What do you think about the situation with our stores and food, and how Lord Washburn has been handling the situation?"
Not well, but as well as a man in this condition, with the river flooded, and fear that he may have to bring in the most important people into the palisade and wall up. The storing of food is something he's. I think he's over careful, but at the same time, it's hard for me to question his will.
Looking back at the wagon, I'll say, so does all of the food in the wagon go straight behind the palisade walls?
I've not thought of it. I would assume once we present it to Lord Washburn, he will order such a what is it you get at, Sylvester? I would assume Washburn will want this food accounted for.
And I believe he would too. It's a valuable resource, and I'll kind of look back at the men and who are helping us,
mm-hmm.
And say, surely some reward could be given to those present, for without them, we wouldn't be able to get this wagon back.
Yes.
Could a bag or two, and I'll kind of smile,
mm-hmm.
fall from the cart for them as a reward, and then everything else go behind the wall?
Let's make a luck check, but modify it by your prestige score. So
okay,
right.
So it's a prestige of 2 and a luck of 1, so it's +3.
+3.
Oh,
yep. And
now are you sure we want to add these two together?
Yes.
Or are we just
because it's a luck check, but your prestige impacts his view of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
With an 8, that makes it an 11.
Yes, you got it. He kind of pulls up, looks back. Do you suggest we deliver this food to them now?
It would probably be wise before we get in sight of Dredgewater so as not to cause more dissent, to show that we may be showing favor to other villagers over the ones who are here.
Good. Sylvester, make it so. Order these men to do what you think is necessary.
I'll wave up for Vidar and ask him to come up, and I'll put a hand on his shoulder and I say, you've been such a great service, you and your fellow villagers. We have made the decision, but you must remember to keep this between us, that a few bags have fallen from the cart, and we believe that those should belong to the men who have helped tonight.
Vidar has a huge grin. The first time you've seen him been this way, and since in a while since this whole occurrence happened, you see a little lift in his expression. His teeth are half gone, half eaten out, and he looks at you with respect. He holds his head up high and then turns around as you command. And he turns on his heel and heads back there and directs him to do so.
And then I'll clap John on the shoulder and I say, thank you. I was worried that if I had broached such a subject that you might not see it this way, and it just reaffirms my belief that you are the right man to follow and the right man to lead our guards. So,
Sylvester, we owe our fealty to Washburn. However, your logic to feed these men is a good one. But never forget, you owe your loyalty to Washburn, not to me. That
I understand.
You'll get me hung.
I'll get us both hung if such talk is ever heard.
Correct. But he returns the handshake. We've known each other, and we've known your family a long time. Your guidance is good.
They'll then go ahead and tell him about the Mort's man.
Okay.
About seeing the trail. I don't know if they were pagans. I don't know who they were, but there was, a large mass of people at one point, maybe within the past 2 days. But, since then we've had snow. Yeah. And I say I will talk with Martin to see if he has seen any more and try and get more information from him.
That should be priority one. So when he hears this, it changes his demeanor, his facial expression changes. So you have learned that there was a pagan activity there at the crossroads.
I cannot say one way or another. Tracks in the snow don't tell me who the man is, but they tell me that they were many men.
This clearly belonged to someone. Do you believe this wagon belonged to?
I know it had to have belonged to Mort. Because there was a man that I had fought and fell in the snow.
Okay.
But other than that, it was just one man. Why he was here, I am not sure. Maybe he was here to support some kind of rebellion. Maybe he was here to support the pagans. Maybe he was here to support, and I kind of look at the snow and say, the cannibals. Who knows? Mort's mind is twisted.
Then we get back and we report. We'll report to Washburn immediately with Martin.
Okay.
Right. So we'll go to Ethelweld. Ethelweld, you have been again after committing this miracle, exhausted. Word travels fast. People come to you for more food, which of course, unfortunately, that particular miracle ceased. But they demanded blessings. They touch you. They've brought their kids and their cattle and their stories and their cure my warts, and they've asked for prayer, and so you have been really up all night conducting these prayers, blessings, and sun is coming up. You're to meet the Washburn's guards. I think you said mid-morning, I think is what you had ordered them to meet you in the town center. You haven't strayed far from town center. Freezing.
Yeah.
Only the warmth of the mass of humanity that has surrounded you has kept you in a way warm, right? Through this evening. Tell me what you're doing now.
So I think the throng of the unwashed masses is still very strong. They're there. And for a long time, good old Henry had been trying to help kind of uh, get people kind of, organized
Right.
to have
He's
one
wore
prayer
out.
after another. But the poor boy just, is worn out and he's like passed out, behind me. But at the moment, I think you would see, my head down, my hand on the shoulder of this young woman, who was asking, and at this point I can't even remember what it was that she was asking for. And she actually starts to slump a little bit as I'm putting more weight on her than I intended to because I'm so tired. But I try to give the blessing, and when I kind of look back up and my eyes are open, she's looking at me a bit quizzically, and she says something along the lines of, brother, I did not understand what it was that you said. I Your words were unclear. And then some people in the back are, oh, he's speaking in tongues, and no, he's just drunk. How could he have gotten drunk? There's no, And I
Right.
say, and so I would say to her, I I'm sorry, sister. I am weary. Uh, as much as I wish that my faith in our Lord would sustain me, He did make us creatures that require sleep. But fear not, the Lord knows of your plight, and if He can help you, He will. But remember, sometimes it is in our tribulations and it is in our struggles that we find that God is preparing us to be strong. And even if you do not get the outcome that you wish now, just know that, no, just kidding. Fall asleep in the middle of it.
Well,
That
she can
one,
see that
yeah,
you're exhausted, so she
yeah,
stands
yeah.
and she barks at the people to let the man be. He must have rest. So she takes you under her arm, and
Mhm.
a couple of other peasants help, and they wake Henry as they walk past, getting Henry on his feet, and usher you over to Falcone's church and into the church
Mhm.
where they lay you in the chamber. Basically, the
Mhm.
same bed that Viadar had been in when they were nursing his wounds. And
Mhm.
she shoos these presents out. She's some peasant woman, but
Mhm.
clearly took some responsibility to aid you. And
Mhm. Mhm.
she then whispers, "Rest now, Lord," and backs out, bowing as she leaves you to sleep. Henry, of course, watches, and then once she's out, he makes sure you're okay, and then he curls up, on the straw mat somewhere there, and again is asleep.
Mhm.
There is a
Yeah.
fire going in here. Falcone, you have not seen, of course, since. So who knows where
Mhm.
he's at? He may be in his quarters.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you you don't sleep long before you're suddenly jolted awake as you're slumbering, dreaming maybe of feasting with Christ at the great table in the now that you feel
Mhm.
the spiritual growth. But you
Mhm.
jolt awake, and it is the face of the captain, not captain, but of one of the soldiers, Rory, who had been assigned to you at dinner
Mhm.
last night, and he jolts you awake, sir, Lord. You said to meet us, and it's like 10 o'clock in the morning now, and so
Mhm.
you don't know how long you were asleep, but you were out sound.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it will reverse your battered condition, but you would have slept enough that could be reversed.
Oh,
So
okay.
no sweat there.
Oh,
Henry,
fantastic.
of course, is already up. He's not here. He tells you that he sent Henry uh, to get a mule and a horse, and he presents to you a scroll. Lady Washburn has a job for you, and he bows as he hands you this scroll. And as you unfurl the scroll, it just reads, Ethelweld, we need you to escort these two young ladies, Sarah and Nola, to, oh gosh, I forget the name of this village. My own village here. I think it's Howardtown. Shoot, let me get my records up here. Holloway, Howardtown. Oh,
Yeah, I forgot to write it down.
me too.
Watching the recap.
Howard Town, right, which
Howard
is
Town,
which
yeah.
is
Yeah.
which is directly west. East of Dredgewater, quite a ways, and present these girls to Bishop Jeremiah at the convent, is what it reads, and return once this duty is fulfilled. You make eye contact as you read this quietly to yourself. Look up. He stands somewhat dumb-faced, kind of furls his lip and says, "She just told me we were to escort you to Howard Town. I know not what it says." And then he says, Sydney is outside. So this is Rory and Sydney are your guards.
Okay.
And he has a wagon with the girls.
Okay. And I think I would kind of try to get up a little bit, and I would falter, realizing how weak I am because I haven't actually eaten anything in quite a while, because all of the food that I was giving out, and then I think maybe the last heel of bread or whatever that I had, I gave to Henry because he was doing a good job, and so I would look to Rory and I would say, "I'll be just a minute, but do you have anything that I could eat just to help regain enough strength for this journey?"
Yeah, he fumbles around and pulls out a bag of food and hands it to you. Yes, you must take nourishment. It is a good 2 leagues to Howard Town. So it will take us a day and a half day, or a day and a night, depending how fast we make travel. So he hands you a bag. It's got nuts and fruit and dried meat. A little bit of bread, cheese in it. So it's basically his rations. It says, take this nourishment. I will meet you out with the girls. He looks and says, do you have any sort of protection? He looks about you, kind of walks around you. Do you have a weapon, Lord?
And I would look to him and I would say, "You keep calling me that. I'm no lord. You just call me Aethelwald, or brother, if that would make you feel more comfortable. As for protection, well, no. My God says that in the face of violence, turn the other cheek, for doing violence is not the way. So my hope is that we will not encounter anything along the road, but I suppose if the Washburns have sent you to escort me, then perhaps you are my protection." And I try to give him like this little cheeky smile, like, "Oh God."
He snorts.
Yeah.
He's a tall man. He's probably 4 inches taller than you. Rough beard, mid-20s. He kind of snorts. He thinks to spit on the floor, then realizes he's in the church. You see him swallow. Then he pulls a dagger from his belt and takes your hand and sticks the dagger in your hand and says, "This is for when turning the other cheek doesn't work. Keep this with you, just in case." And he hands you a dagger. It's just a good dagger, but it's and he says, this may be, you may be called upon to protect these girls if we cannot. Brother Aethelwald. And then he bows and steps out. If you have any orders for him, you can bark them to him as he's headed out.
No.
Okay.
But for a moment, I'll hold the blade in hand, and my inclination initially was to reject it, but understanding, his need for me to take it was sort of more important than my need to publicly profess, this tenet of my faith. But then I remember thinking back to those moments when I was in my monastery as a young, a young monk or whatever, and the Danes had come in and were sacking the place, and thinking, boy, if I had had a dagger then, what might that have meant? And then as I kind of take the dagger and look over to like maybe a little nightstand or something, thinking about putting it down, And then intending to do so, I realized that I kind of put it instead of on the nightstand down like where somewhere. Maybe I have, there's a little sheath or whatever that came
Sure.
with it. I don't know, but I put it on my person and give a little prayer. Throw a mouthful of the berries and the nuts and whatever in, and give a little blessing, and then say, "My Lord, please do not put me in a position where I must decide whether I need to use this weapon or not.
Right.
I don't think I'm strong enough for that test of faith." And then I would walk out into the freezing cold, 10 a.m. Northern England or Southern England,
Right.
type weather. And I don't know, like, would there be that throng of people kind of just milling about?
Well, some.
Or would they
Again, it's about
disperse? I
10
don't know.
o'clock. So worse
Yeah.
than that, as you won't know this, but they have decreed, Washburn has decreed that Peen be executed, drawn and quartered in Dredgewater proper
Right.
at midday. So people are it's crowded. And
Yeah.
as Sylvester and John and the wagon, Vidar, and everybody show up, they can see there is throngs of peasants here.
Sure.
Sylvester, in particular, you see among this group pagans, Christians. Sylvester, you see some that are clearly you've seen before, and some are strangers. There's a passing moment where Martin seems to make eye contact with a couple of these guys, and you catch out of the corner of your eyes, perceptive as you are, frowns and tries to shake them off, as if a warning them off with a head shake.
I slightly, with the edge of my boot, just kind of lightly step on Martin's little toe.
Yeah, he winces and makes eye contact with you. What is it, Sylvester?
I just kind of shake my head and I say, "It's awfully cloudy here today and very crowded." I remember them saying something about justice being done today, but I can't remember for what. And I look at Martin in the face and say, "Do you remember?"
Yeah, he can't. He wears his emotion on his face. It's obvious he's troubled.
Okay.
He frowns and you see him bite his lip as he says, I am not comfortable discussing this in front of the man at arms."
Oh, John has had duties to take care of, so I turn around and look back, and you can see John taking the cart with everything else
right
to the behind the palisade walls, and then I look around and I say, "I've dismissed my students for today."
Gotcha.
So Rolf and
John will yell back, Martin, Sylvester, after the execution of the prisoner, come up to the manse. I will tell Lord Washburn. You will report. And again, midday is roughly when they're going to execute Peen, so you've got a couple hours. You see a wagon with a couple of young women on it, with Rory and Sydney. You would know these guards, Sylvester, as they're part of the part of the Lord's police force / army of Dredgewater. They would nod at you. Not much smiles here, as they've got the babysitting duty of Ethelweld. But they're on the wagon. One of the Sydney is in the wagon. You see Henry bringing a mule and a horses up for Rory. Ethelweld may come out and greet Henry. Henry whispers to you, Ethelweld, as you approach, and hands you the reins of a horse. Already, Falcone. I'm hearing rumors that he is spreading lies about you, Ethelweld. That you are a false prophet.
Sorry, who is this that's saying that to me?
Henry, your young acolyte, has overheard at the stables.
Sure.
That already there are rumors going around that you are a false prophet, and Falcone he believes behind it.
Sure. And I will say, well, unfortunately, that's not much of a surprise, young Henry. But have Have faith. People will believe more in a full belly than the words of the man who let them starve for so long. Have faith.
Good. He's trying to saddle up this mule. The mule clearly for him. He hands the reins of one of the horses to Rory. Sydney and the girls are on the wagon. Vidar, you are with this group of vigilantes. As you come back down toward Dredgewater, they begin to break off and head into the crowd to watch, maybe see what's happening. You hear now everybody talking. They're going to execute Peen, and there are people cheering and talking. There's a lot of energy as they're about to see a public execution here in a couple hours. They bring Peen down and shackle him in a stockade, and people, of course, are spitting on him and throwing things at him. So he is further disgraced while he waits to be drawn and quartered. And you're hearing this. Some, of course, aren't. They are conspicuously, their mouths shut, stoic. They're not excited and happy about this. You may recognize some of these guys as locals. Some of them you clearly have never seen before, Vidar. But your little group of vigilantes now, as you return to Dredgewater night, they're not out now wrangling up the enemies of the state. They're mingling with this crowd. You're muted.
Ever since we came in contact with Sylvester, I've kept more of an eye on them and kept them. I was a little bit more gruffer with them and making sure that whatever Sylvester's needs were done post haste. I allow them to go and mingle into the crowd as they do so. I halfway am tipped to the rubber deck myself and look at it, and I'm excited. But I'm searching out Sylvester. I stay away from him a stone's throw, almost like a bodyguard from the side, and I'm there at his beck and call to do whatever needs to be done. And so that's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm shadowing him,
okay,
just to be whatever he needs to be. But my eye will lean over and look toward Peen and sneer every once in a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's about to get his just rewards,
okay.
as far as if it even my mind.
You all spot Falcone as he moves about the crowd, grip and grin. He'll bless people, at least in a very superficial way. He'll take hands and shake hands. He'll bow to people. He'll mingle and talk. And then he gets on a small dais that is thrown in the mud. It's basically a wooden, just to get him up out of the mud, a few inches higher than, and begins to talk about the realities of justice and that what must occur. We cannot allow the pagan evils of the world. This man will be both secularly and spiritually suffer. No talk of his forgiveness, no talk that God would forgive him, that he could beg forgiveness. He ignores Peen completely and just speaks to the crowd, getting what Christians he can riled up. And so you're seeing this. And Sylvester, you can't quite make it out, but you see another group of men, Kane and Milt. They're two other of the Washburn's men, and they're at the Blackleaf Inn. They appear to be on duty. They appear to be there in official capacity. You just see them at Blackleaf Inn, and then as they watch and listen to Falcone for a minute or so, they then dip inside the Blackleaf Inn. They are both Washburn's men, but you know them to be soldiers.
Do I know them to be like very loyal to Washburn? Have they ever?
Yes, if they look very official and they appear to be there for a reason, most likely they have some duty to perform for Washburn. At least that's
okay.
What you know of them.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Martin. Martin, once he realizes he's alone with you, Sylvester, he you can see, he feels like he's being watched from multiple angles as he tries to duck and lead you around out of the town center behind behind the blacksmith's shop there in town center, out of the view of all of these peasants and all of these onlookers, and he tells you there will be trouble if they execute Peen. Some of those men are here to cause trouble if they execute Peen, Sylvester.
I can see the coals in this fire burning, but there's nothing I can do about it. You know I have to keep my loyalties to Lord Washburn. I'm trying to do as much as I can to quell this fire, but I think that between Mort, from what I've seen, his one man, lets me know that he is involved here, that maybe he is stoking this fire and making it worse for us. But that is why I need, at some point, for you to talk to Aethelwald. He seems to be sent here, I don't believe, for persecution purposes.
Right.
I think on my first impression is he is a level man. He is an upright man. He may be a priest and bound to his God, but between you and him and those that you know of the pagans, maybe you can come to terms between them. But tell me more about what this man has supposedly done. How well do you know him? And how well do these men in the crowd know you?
Peen?
Ian, yes.
Well, Peen kidnapped those girls there up in the wagon. You see there with the two soldiers, and obviously he is one of Jarek's men.
And why would he have captured them? Why would he take them hostage, kidnap them?
You have not heard. Well, they were
They keep me busy.
They were sacrificing these virgin girls for their pagan rituals.
My mouth kind of goes into a straight line.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of shake my head and I say, sacrifice to one is murder to another. Mm-hmm. And I believe that all these creatures on this planet, on this earth, should be allowed to live and live free. I look back out kind of around the corner to see if I can spy where Aethelwald is. I see that he's still kind of occupied.
Yeah, he's talking to Henry at the horses.
Yeah.
Vidar is not far from you, right? You do see some of these strangers that you've not seen before eyeballing Martin, from a distance, and they're watching this conversation between you. And Martin is very uncomfortable, obviously.
I will give all appearances to make the conversation look friendly.
Yes.
Put my hand on my shoulder, put my hand on his shoulder. If I appear dissatisfied with something he said, I will kind of turn my face away so they cannot actually see the expression.
Right.
But
okay, with that description,
yeah.
One of these guys approaches you. Martin, who is your friend here? I see you have a friend. Is he joining us for this?
Do I recognize this man from being from Dredgewater?
No. He's a stranger, but he clearly makes eye contact with Martin. He sees that you are touching him, you're friendly, and he thinks, so he comes over, he eyeballs you. Are you wearing any of the colors of Washburn? Are you wearing a uniform?
Yeah, I still have the kit on. I mean, I came here straight from the cart, so I have my side sword, my bow.
Okay.
And
but
probably not
you're wearing
too far
identifying
off
colors of Washburn. Okay.
And then not too far off from me, peeing on the side of a building is probably either, one of the dogs.
Right. He approaches Martin. Is this a friend of yours? One of Washburn's men. And Martin, at this point, you see him swallow. He does not want to have this conflict, here, right? And he nods and says, yes, this is one of Washburn's men. This is Sylvester. He is a captain of the scouts. How are you? And he doesn't say his name. He avoids saying his name, but how are you? You can tell it's missing from the conversation. He does not say the man's name, right? He says, Martin, come with me. We must talk. Martin looks at you and then looks back at him and he says, come now, Sylvester, you will let me have audience with this man?
I turn to Martin and I say, I think for now our conversations are done. If you need to get in touch with me, you can either find me at the barracks or at the Blackleaf Inn.
Okay.
And as I kind of leave the alley, I'll try, to see if they come my direction or they stay where they are, or kind of go off out of sight.
Oh no, they stay. As long as you give them privacy, they talk there. They don't go anywhere. They talk.
Okay,
there.
so
Yeah.
I will kind of come within medium, about double arm's length of where Vidar is, and I'll kind of just over my shoulder, I'll say, Vidar, if you can, help me keep an eye on Martin and the man he's talking with. The man he's with is not from Dredgewater. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's a fire burning here today, so there may be trouble.
You hear above the throng of noise, Sylvester, Ethelweld, Vidar, somebody screaming for Sylvester's help. Over the throng of noise, you hear this voice bark out. Sylvester, as you look about, you finally pick it up. It is familiar to you. You see they've got Jules, and they're in custody. The two guards, Kane and Milt, and you see them escorting Jules up to the palisade. He is the proprietor of the Blackleaf Inn that was handing out food. You had advised him to feed the poor from the back door.
Yeah.
And he's yelling for you, Sylvester.
I'll just take a step close to Vidar and say, keep an eye on Martin, and then I'll make my way that direction, kind of at a quick trot and whistle for the dogs.
Okay. So we'll go to Ethelweld.
As you wish.
So you're going to keep an eye, Vidar, on Martin. You're chasing down Jules and the guards. All right, Ethelweld. So you're at the horses. Henry's warned you that it sounds like Falcone's spreading rumors about you. The girls are young, 14, 15 years old. They are very quiet. They wear hoods. They're pretty much bundled up due to the cold, but also to hide in a way their both their gender and maybe their potential beauty, right, from the world, as you're going to be traveling for quite some ways. You do see, you hear this man scream, and you see Sylvester and his dogs head off through the crowd, and you may or may not pick up some of this tension, other than there will be a public execution, and unfortunately, the sad state of the world of humanity, as this is the best form of entertainment for these people, are public executions. Falcone is still mumbling nonsense that is far from the word of God on the center dais.
Yeah. And so there's a moment, I think, where there's a lot of internal conflict, right? A lot of unsure what to do. And so, I think what I would do at that moment is I would try to pray, to ask God, like, give me guidance here, right? Show me the right path, because part of me wants to publicly denounce what I believe are the lies and falsehoods that Falcone is spreading, right? And the obvious result that will come from that, if he's clearly aiding and whipping up this crowd, right? But I also understand the church hierarchy, and that would not be my place, and I've gotten in trouble for that before. Right. Hence,
and you
my
hear his voice
here.
Raise up above the crowd, and beware the false prophets, those who think they commit miracles. You hear this come up, clearly a reference to maybe you, right, above the throng, and people boo and hiss and some cheer, right.
Right.
Nobody looks directly at you in this throng. These particular peasants may or may not have been here last night, but it's mostly men, and they're poor and famished. Some are Christians, some are pagans. You can tell from their dress or their demeanor.
Sure.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, and so I think I would wait for a moment, taking all this in, and then not hearing the voice of God, not not necessarily getting what it is that I want, I'm understanding that it is my burden to try to make the best of this situation. And so I think about all that has been asked of me, and my job here is not to change this town and to change the world, but to spread the word to these pagans, and also I've been charged with the safe passage and the care of these young
Right.
ladies. And so, did I hear the reason that they were here? Would that have been
Oh yeah,
widely
there's people. I
known?
mean, they're talking about
Absolutely.
it. The
Okay.
town crier, because most of these people are
Okay.
illiterate, he may have
Uh-huh.
come through again saying,
Sure.
announcing by
Hmm.
decree, the criminal Peen will
Hmm.
be executed, drawn and quartered, and so you might hear
Hmm.
him in the distance as he travels through the crowd. At some point, he's
Yeah.
he's going to join in the masses. The crier's done his
Hmm.
job, but yeah, you would know
Yeah.
that they're about to, and you can see the criminal that they're pelting. He's being dehumanized and abused
Yep. Yep.
before his punishment.
Mm.
Ethel, finally, just as the Rory leans in as he saddles up, and he says, "I think we should get on the road before this madness occurs, unless you, sir, want to stay and watch them murder this man." And then he looks over his shoulder. Just then, you hear Father Falcone, "Brother Ethelweld, will you not come up and say something to the people?"
Oh boy. Okay. Yes, I will. So I will stand um, and sort of make my way. And I imagine as I'm kind of making my way to Falcone, the crowd parts,
Yeah.
much like the Red Sea might have
Yep.
parted.
Yep.
No, that's silly. But anyway,
No,
so
they
yes,
they do make room
yeah,
clearly for you. He is
yeah.
Father Falcone above the throng has called you out. Uh,
Hmm.
Vidar, you see quickly. You see guys exchanging, handing out rotten tomatoes and apples. Suddenly, right? So Vidar, Sylvester, of course, is passing through the crowd. He's watching. He's watching the two guards take Jules toward the palisade. But it's clear to you, Vidar, that these guys are preparing to paste Brother Aethelwald with tomatoes, maybe paid for by Falcone, right? You're seeing all of a sudden these guys handing out rotten tomatoes, rotten fruit. You've seen it before, right?
Yeah. Well, if I'm handed one and I crush it in my hand, it's almost annoyance.
No, you fool! You're supposed to throw it. Did you not get paid? And then he moves away from you once he realizes you're not.
Well, I look at it gruffly or whatever, and I back up in misunderstanding, and I push him off of me. Okay, he's local, right? So
Yeah, he's you may or may not recognize him. Yeah, it's up to you.
but he's moved off from.
Yeah,
Martin's
when he saw you crush it and discard it, he said, "No, you fool! You're supposed to throw it." And yeah,
I
then he
just
moves
look at
away.
him.
He doesn't wait
like
to hear your answer.
I have no time for him. Well, he gets it, even if he's walking away.
Right.
Innocently, and I'll roll my eyes, and readjust them back on toward Martin because I've got my orders to fulfill. I don't have time to play. So I'm trailing Martin right now.
Okay.
Where's he?
Martin concludes whatever conversation he's having with this gentleman, and it appears to be not a heated exchange, but Martin is not big smiles and nodding affirmatively. They don't have a disagreement, but it's not. You don't get the sense that it's a confirmation conversation. And then he goes back into the crowd. Martin heads back around the blacksmith, away from the town center.
I shadow him.
Okay. All right, Ethelweld. So you've Falcone has stepped off his little wooden dais that he's thrown into the mud there, and invited you up onto this dais.
Hmm. And I would step up onto the dais, and I would look around at the crowd. And do I notice many of the people that had been there and witnessed the miracle and had been asking for prayers and all that? They're in the crowd.
Yeah, some of them are clearly
Okay.
because you were
Yeah.
inundated for a long time with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is it obviously? Can I see that they're holding this fruit and
They
whatever?
all have fruit because they've been pelting
Yeah.
Keen with rotten fruit
Sure.
and
Yep.
tomatoes, etc. Yep.
Yep. And so I think I would look at them, um, for silently for maybe just long enough for it to be a little bit awkward, and then I would look to Falcone, and I would say thank you. Would it be appropriate to call him Father Falcone? I assume he's the religious authority in this town.
Yeah. Well, he's like the
Yeah,
yeah.
like the bishop or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
Father. Yeah, I guess.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Father.
Yeah. He
And then,
smiles. You get kind of a kind of a backhanded little flip.
yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would say, um, look at the work of God, the continuing work of God, as you all hold His bounty in your hands. You have found food where there was none before, but I must say that I am troubled. For last night, many of you came to me hungry and needed sustenance, not just for your bodies, but for your soul as well. And yet now I see you all with fruit that, while may not look appetizing, certainly for a belly that hasn't held no food for so long would be sustaining. And yet, where was this food yesterday? Was this truly a miracle? Did this food just appear out of nowhere? Well,
People start to raise voices and draw, and they listen to this.
yeah.
As you talk, they begin to turn and look at Falcone. Let's make a prestige check, sir.
Okay, I can do that.
It's a 6. You need a 6 or better. So add your prestige.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh well, I rolled an 11. So
Sweet.
+2.
So as you talk and you remind them of this, they begin to now realize and begin to pitch this fruit, tomatoes, rotten food, bread, etc., at Falcone, driving Falcone away. As you have reminded them that it is such a grotesque idea to waste this even rotten food. And the man that tried to convince them to do so was Falcone. And they turn it on him, chasing him off. So he's pelted with lots of stuff. And people cheer, roar. The pagans,
stop them.
The pagans among them. Again, stern-faced. They're here for one reason. You get the feeling they're not paying any attention to you and Falcone at all.
No.
Right.
Yeah. And I would be like, no, please wait. Don't turn your anger and your, and do the very thing that you were incited to do against this man. No. If it was Father Falcone that provided you with food, then look on this as a blessing. Do not use that food that you so desperately wanted yesterday as an object of your hatred, as an object of your anger. For the Lord tells us that it is not our job to strike those that do us wrong, but to turn the other cheek and to trust in Him that our well-being will be taken care of. And we have seen that last night. Last night when you were hungry and you called out to Him, His grace, through me as His humble vessel, provided for you. And it is now time for you to trust in Him again. Put down your food and this rotten food and lay aside your anger. Turn to your neighbor and ask how you can help them. Come together as a town and start healing these wounds.
You hear some cheer, some people cheer, real praises. Some people drop to their knees. The pagans again, they're here for another reason, waiting for the execution of Peen. And then many of them who were ashamed that they took something, promises of wealth, promises of something, they actually drop the rotten fruit, or they'll keep it with them and they'll walk away. And before you know it, a third of this crowd is gone. They've left the sinners scared. And before you know it, eye level with you on horseback is Rory as he's ridden up on horseback, and you're basically eye level because you're standing on this. And he looks at you and says, "Are you ready to go yet, Ethelwald?" With this very sober kind of like, "Are you done? Can we go?"
Right. Yeah, and it's tough because I look over to, this man who's about to be executed and realize that no one will give him last rites. Nobody will be there to advocate the forgiveness and the word of God to him or this crowd. And yet there's this tension and this urgency to go. And I would say, yes, nearly. Just indulge me for one more minute. And I would say to the remaining crowd, think upon the miracle that you witnessed last night and the actions of some of those that you witnessed today, and ask yourselves who is it that you should trust, the word of man or the word of God? And was it the word of God that inflicted upon your heart this hatred of this man, the accused? Or was it the word of man that perhaps...
Rory kind of rears his horse around and says, "Careful, Ethelwald, careful."
Yeah, but I know the precarious position, and I continue and I say, think on this. A criminal should obviously meet his justice, and the justice of man is separate from the justice of God. But ask yourself this: does not even the lowest of men deserve the forgiveness that our Lord has given to us through the shedding of his Son's blood? Maybe not for this life, but certainly for the afterlife. Wouldn't all of you wish that forgiveness?
You hear some barks. Yes, praise God. And then you start seeing what's left of the Christians leave as they realize they don't want to bear witness to the execution of this man. And before you know it, you realize you're looking now at a crowd of pagans, non-believers, stern-faced, really not paying attention to you. But almost all the Christians now have left this area. And Rory says you're not doing much for business as he spurs his horse over to the wagon.
And I would jump down at that point, and I would say, not particularly loud, but just my business is the business of God, not the business of Dredgewater. And I would attempt to go over to the cart, and if there was room for me to comfortably sit with the girls, I would. And just kind of, talk to them and more casually just ask them, how are things? How are you feeling about this journey? Whatever, just trying to reassure them.
Okay. And Sydney will snap the wagon into gear, and Henry will pull your horse along just in case on his mule. And you guys are headed off now up out of to the top, and then you'll head west on the old Empire Road toward Howardtown. Sylvester, you and your dogs quickly catch up within 20 feet or so. Vidar, you follow Martin around the blacksmith, and you see at that point he as you peek around, he is squatting behind the blacksmith, and you hear him sobbing, moaning, crying. Martin. He doesn't know you're there, clearly. He doesn't think anybody's witnessing his breakdown. And you're about 20 feet now from Jules as he is there. They've got him at sword point, but he's not tied or anything, obviously. And they're leading him up to the manse, to the drawbridge, to go to obviously the manse to see Lord Washburn as you approach, Sylvester.
So as I'm coming up behind them, I'll just
give
a short bark.
Just to remind you, their names are Kane and Milt. They are soldiers, so you know them.
Okay. I'll give a short bark. Kane and Milt, what's about?
So Milt spins around. Kane looks and says, and he nods a greeting as he gives a push, a little jab in the back of Jules. Jules, you hear Jules yell out, "Tell them, Sylvester, it was not my idea." And he pushes him on. Milt drops and greets your dogs playfully as he pets the dogs, and he looks up. "Sylvester, we have hard business this morning. We have had to go down and charge Jules with treason as he's been feeding the poor from Washburn's stores."
I kind of give a wave to Jules and, to acknowledge that I hear him, that I hear what he's saying. Mm-hmm. And then I turn to Kane and Milt and I say, the broth that he gave was from the hip bone of the wolves that I killed 2 days ago, stopping them from devouring the priest as he tried to enter the town. That was not his stores.
Then you will need to come and give that testimony directly to Lord Washburn.
I will.
Yeah.
But I have something a little more pressing for the three of us. And I turn and face back down to where the execution is about to happen. Probably about this time we're seeing some of the Christians leave.
Yeah, now it seems like all that's left are, many of them you do not recognize.
I kind of nod my head back down the hill and I say, there's a fire about ready to burn loose down there.
Could use... What is it you refer to? Who are those men? Who are most of those men?
I say they are all pagans. They have come here. They were with the group to see what was going to happen today and witness the execution, and I give them both hard eyes. Mm-hmm. How would you feel if one of your own were about to be put to death? What do you think may happen here in just a few minutes when this occurs? And as we see more of the Christians leave,
right.
I nod towards their swords and I say, that steel may be put to better use elsewhere.
Kane looks at Jules. Jules, you can't go far. Report to Washburn. We will find you. And they turn and say, by your lead, Sylvester, and they'll basically follow you.
Okay, I say, do you trust me and my family?
They don't even. To them, that's a very foreign question. It's like there's just no question. They do. Yeah.
Then I turn to Jules and say, you must go to my father's house. If you were to wait somewhere, then don't go. I do not want you to go to meet Lord Washburn alone. I must give testimony in your defense. But go to my family's house so that I may retrieve you there later.
Ooh, beautiful. Make a luck check here, sir.
Would it be feasible? Would I hear this at all? Or
no, they're up the road, headed to the palisade. Okay. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep.
It's a 5.
Okay. Well, you can see the relief on his face. He's sweating. You've come to his aid, which is why he screamed for you. And as he passes, he pets your dog on the head, and he reaches out and gives you a handshake, and then he races almost a full sprint, clearly terrified about what's happened to him, headed for your family's home.
Yeah.
Kane and Milt, kind of cock their heads at you and say, "Now, what is this fire you refer to?" And Kane, of course, smiles. "I have not killed a man in a long time." And he grips his hilt and begins to head down toward the town center. Milt follows suit with you wherever you're headed.
We're making our way back down to where the execution's going to happen, but we're not going to make our way out into the crowd. I mean, we want to hang back. I'm going to scan to see if I can spot Vidar. If I see Vidar, I'm going to point him out to Kane and Milt. And as I'm doing this, I say, imagine that those are Mort's men.
And they both, at that point, they look at each other, they look at you. "Yes, and there is a decree to kill all of Mort's men. They are enemies of the state." So they literally draw their swords as they head down to the town center.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna if they try to keep advancing, I say we will take no action until we see what happens.
Right.
If they turn to violence, then we will meet that violence.
Okay.
But for now, we must let Lord Washburn's justice run its course.
Okay.
They may or may not be Lord Mort's men, but to the pagans, that may be how they see the Christians.
Lord,
just like we
I
see
hope
Mort's
they
men.
attempt to interfere with the execution. It says Cain as he eyes his end of his sword as he approaches. But we heed you, Sylvester. We will wait until it's necessary. But Cain
Okay.
clearly would like to draw blood. Martin, at some point, Vidar, he wipes his face.
Well,
Go ahead.
before he says anything, I noticed him standing there for a minute.
He doesn't know you're there. He has no clue you're there.
Yeah, I know. I want to give him a start. What vexes you, man?
He jumps, looks away from your general direction, wipes the snot in his eyes.
And it is clear that the pagans have taken from you as they have from me.
Uh,
Take hold of the fire in your heart.
He says to you, "Who are you? Who are you?
Toward
man?
him, okay?
Who are you?"
You know me. I'm
Oh,
Vidar.
is that you, Vidar? Yes.
Yes, and I pull back any kind of a hood that I have over to get
Right.
and then I take my axe and clang it on my shield. Yes, take heart to the fire that burns there. You can join us.
I am but a man.
But I do a broad sweep with my arm. We can wipe the pagans from Christ's land.
And with this, you see his face. He's not quite certain how to respond to this. Vidar.
I'm totally into. I'm stepping toward him.
He is a pagan, so he's a little terrified of this. You see him backing away from you, as he is a pagan, right?
Yeah, I know, but I want to assure him. I don't know that, but I want to assure him that you know what I mean. He's in welcome company. Okay. You know what I mean. He has found a home the same way I have found a home.
You tell me I am welcome, but then you tell me you will slaughter pagans. I am confused, Vidar.
You slaughter pagans, yes. Have they not? And then there becomes a acute recognition on my face, and I stumble back, and realizing that he's not going through what I have gone through.
Right.
And then I get a steer on him, and the grip on my weapon, on my axe, you can see I get white knuckled, and I lift it up, and my shield, and I stomp toward him. Then we shall end this now.
Oh, he's making a run for it. I mean, he's turning and running, balls out toward Dredgewater Downs. Do you want to chase him?
I want to see if I can get I want to see if I can get a good hit on him before he gets out of there.
All right, go ahead and define that. As he realizes he starts to backpedal, and he realizes and he starts to turn and run.
Okay. What the heck is my D12?
D12, not D20.
I found it. All right. But yeah, that's what I'm going to try to do. Okay, that's 5 total.
5 will. I mean, that's not hard. He's not armed. He's an innkeeper. So as he starts to turn and run, you strike him. You strike him in the back with your axe. What?
Yeah. I want to cleave.
Yeah, he. It hits him. He stumbles. He screams out, stumbles 2 or 3 steps, falls to his knees. For the most part, he's a minion. So, this kills him unless you choose not to kill him.
Well, the axe. When it goes in.
Yeah,
I'm going to fall on top of him and push his face into the mud and start to squeeze his neck as the axe is falling out. So a lot of.
Damn.
I'll
stick the axe into him, but you also choke him.
Yeah, I fall on top of him, face down into the mud as I'm squeezing. Now I don't know if I can regain some kind of cognitive awareness of what my original thing was. Definitely the howls that are coming after me, out of me, are basically me purging all this pent up hatred I have for who I now see as the enemy. Right.
At some point you'll become aware that you have, drowned this man in the mud. However, he wasn't fighting you, so he's probably dead when he hit the ground. You'll have to decide when that occurs, when you come out of that. That's a repute. I don't know. That's going to be a repute point, but for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, but ill repute.
Because when you come to, you'll realize there are people who have seen this from the road. Ethelweld in the wagon passing up the road with the horses as they come around. You've left people witness this.
See that, yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, if y'all did, you did, because I kind of got blind rage for a minute there. But I thought he had walked around the back.
He did, but the backside of the blacksmith shop is out of town. The blacksmith shop is on the east side of town, on the way out of town, right? So they're on that side. So it's open plains, but there are people who would have witnessed this, right? So you'll get a repute, though. It's
It's all good, because when I'm squeezing his neck, I'm stopped obviously too late to do anything, and then I pull him up and pull him over, because I know that taking out pagans is all right. But I'm looking for like a necklace with Thor's hammer on it or anything, some kind of an indicator.
Yeah, there's definitely a pagan iconography on him. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I pulled that and get up, huffing, and stand there. I'm more muddied up. He sees his body's laying there lifeless, and I have that corded necklace hanging from my hand, and I lift it up, hold it in front of me as it dangles there. I look at the little.
As the girls watch this, Ethelweld, you hear them gasp out and turn away from it. As you all watch on, Sidney, driving the horses, looks and says, "There's one pagan down Washburn is responsible for." And Rory just spurs his horse on ahead. Hard to tell whether Rory's happy about any of this, but Sidney seems to be okay with it. The girls clearly are shocked by it.
I'd reach down to grab the back of his, his collar of his jerkin, and I start dragging him through the mud, up out of the mud, back into the town square where they're about to draw and quarter.
Shit! All right, we're gonna have to make a hard luck roll. So Sylvester, as you're walking down with Kane and Milt, hoping that nothing turns ugly here, coming around the edge is Vidar dragging Martin's dead body. Make that luck roll. This is a 10+, sir.
Gotcha.
What's that?
I got a 9.
9. Okay. So as you come around, dragging his body and park it there, these pagans, clearly friends of Martin, turn looking, and they howl as they draw weapons and are coming on you. So Sylvester, as you're coming down the hill, you see all of these pagans that were there to disrupt the execution are turning, and you're facing an onslaught of a mob of pagans, Vidar, as you drop his body in this town center.
It takes me a second today. I thought I was pulling into, you know what I mean? It's people that onlookers.
But you thought it was a larger pack of Christians. They're gone, thanks to Ethelweld shooing them away.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So when I'm pulling them in, I'm kind of clueless to that. I'm, another one for your, and I'm pulling that, and then all of a sudden I'm getting jumped on. So, yeah.
Okay, so Sylvester, you and Kane and Milt, if you run, can get there, next turn. But right now, Vidar, you are facing a mob of angry pagans. You've just murdered one of theirs, right?
Okay.
So as they rush on you, go ahead, Sylvester. You were going to say?
So I see this. As I see kind of like the smile spread across Kane's face when he realizes that
he's going to get the play.
He's going to get the action he wanted. In astonishment, I just kind of say, Vidar, what have you done?
Mm-hmm.
And when the pack turned from him, or turn from watching Peen to seeing this, and the weapons come out. My first instinct is to still try and protect Vidar, so I don't draw my sword. I have my bow in hand.
Right.
When they start moving in that direction, I am going to be trying to. If I can't get there this round,
Right.
they'll be on top of him though this round.
Well, you can certainly shoot now. You could shoot now and affect the difficulty of the mob for him. The dogs, Are you sending the dogs? What do you do with the dogs? Okay. Now, it'll take anybody on foot to a turn to get into this melee. But you can certainly, from here, launch a weapon, right?
Yeah.
Ethelweld, you hear as you watch in horror again, as the girls look away and you're maybe craning your head around, you see him pick up the body from the mud, drag it around and throw it at the feet of, and you realize in horror as these pagans turn on him and rush him. You're quite some distance from it, on a wagon that is moving up the hill and away. Any actions you want to take?
I didn't see this outcome happening. I must admit. Yeah, I mean, I think like as the girls are turning away, and I don't know if they would be screaming or if they're just like, just so shocked and they want to dissociate from it. But I feel like my eyes are glued to this scene, and my hands are like gripping the inside of the cart, and I think it's almost like it goes tunnel vision, right? Where what I'm now seeing is this enraged Viking, axe pulled out of the back of this guy, right? And my heart starts pounding, right? Boom, 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 and my breathing is right. And I think I would be going into like a full on panic attack at this point because
it reminds you, right?
That same like PTSD that I first got, and I think that it's I'm starting to fully be overcome by the grips of that and I think maybe what's happening is like it's just everything's getting darker and darker and darker, and then all of a sudden within that darkness there's this just like this little spark, right, or this little light, and it starts to grow and grow and grow, and the way it manifests is almost a vision of Vidar saving me from the wolves, saving Henry, right? Almost a redemption moment there. And I think it's in that moment that I see these visions of two conflicting Vidars, right? This one just unbelievably savage and raged Viking, and the other of this tortured, broken man. And the Viking is like slowly raising his axe up to sever the head of this broken man. And then what happens where it was far away, all of a sudden it's right there, and I'm there, and my arm is like poised in front of my face as if to say like, do I stop the arm wielding the axe or not? And I think in that moment, right, it's like I'm having this vision, and then all of a sudden, like it kicks back into reality, and I witness what's going on. And I think I would say, and I imagine I'll see Sylvester also kind of making his way, right? Or would he?
Well, yeah, you can see coming down from the palisade, the dogs, Sylvester, these two guards, they're all running toward the town center as Vidar stands there over this dead Martin, right?
Right. And so, I just think back, my original mission here was to come and convert the pagans, but this, if this is allowed to happen, this will be detrimental to the cause because it will fuel the ire of both sides. And so I say much more weakly than I intend to, stop the wagon. I need to get out for a minute. And then I think maybe perhaps
Right.
because I was so worked up and whatever, it came out kind of croaky and hoarse or whatever. And so then I say it again, but much louder and much firmer. Stop.
Yeah,
Stop.
Sidney pulls the wagon to a halt, looks at you. What, brother Ethelweld? And Rory spins his horse around. What now? He says.
Yeah, and he's saying it to my back as
Right.
I jumped out of the wagon before it even fully stopped.
Okay.
And I'm running towards this this scene.
Rory, seeing that, will roll his eyes, and he'll spur the horse toward the melee, or toward you. You don't know what, but that's what's happening. And then Sidney in the wagon is confused. What the hell's going on? Yeah. All right, Sylvester, launch that first arrow, my friend. This ultimately, success will kill one as they're a mob, but it will also lower the difficulty for Vidar, right?
Okay.
So go ahead. Adding your
just the bow, right?
Just the bow, unless the dogs will be a melee addition if you use the dogs later, right?
Yeah, the dogs will come in later.
You need a 6, basically.
Well, that's okay. That's fine. I got a total of 9.
Nice. All right, so an arrow into the back of one of these at the edge of the pack as he stumbles forward and goes down.
Always aiming for the front of the pack.
Oh, got it.
I want them as they're moving in to see the people who are in front already dropping before they get to Vidar.
So let's do that. Let's make a mind check for something. This will be a 5 difficulty. Nice. You get a kill shot.
6.
Nice. And indeed, the effect will be to get their attention that they are facing another danger from behind. Okay? That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
As you shoot this, the first man rushing into Vidar. Vidar, you see the man, he's rushing at you with his sword up, arrow through his back, and he stumbles basically into your shield. Half of this pack slows and turns to see where this threat's coming from, facing Kane, Milt, and the Wolfhounds. Vidar, you're facing the other half of this pack. It's about 3 men, right? And Sylvester, the others now, a mob of 3 are facing away from Vidar. So Vidar, it would be your narrative control here, sir, as Sylvester has broken the mob in 2 and lowered your difficulty for this turn.
I kind of got tunnel vision on what I'm seeing right now, and it's a welcome sight. Yes, pagans, come to me. And I hold the axe up, and I'm going into make as wide of the cleaving swath as I can through there.
Okay.
All right.
It's a 5 difficulty, just so you know.
Okay, the body. Yeah. Oh, geez. Okay, I rolled a 2, and I got a 2 body. So that's 4.
Okay, and that's with a lowered score from 6 to 5. So you're going to suffer a wound as, you take one on the shield over the top. You're outnumbered. One of them blocks your sword. The other one drives a sword into your ribs. You can feel it. You've got one on the shield. One's blocked your weapon, and another's driven a sword into your ribs. You were battered too, right? You've healed some, but you're battered, right? I don't believe you came down from battered because you got injured. In the wolf attack, you rested down to battered, so you're going to be back up to injured here. Is that right?
Okay. Well, I was thinking it was.
I thought he was down to fatigued.
Oh, well, that's right. You're right. It was fatigued. You're right. So you're up to battered. I'm sorry.
I thought it was a level up more.
You're right. So you're now battered. So the next wound will be injured, which is not good. And then there's dying, and then there's unfortunately dead. Okay, but you're at battered. That's right. Thank you for reminding me of fatigued. I forgot about fatigued, which is where you would have been, Ethelweld, to start at fatigue. My own game, and I can't remember the entrance.
Okay.
All right, and Ethelweld. So again, they of course are surrounding you. The other mob turns and faces Kane and Milt. Let's make a prestige check, Sylvester, on this group of 3. I want you to make a prestige check of 9 and modified by the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. Modified by 4. So prestige plus 4 is your roll, and you need a 9 or better.
That's going to wind up being a 14.
Yeah. So as they turn to face whatever killed their buddy, they see Kane and Milt and 2 dogs and you with a bow, and they scatter. These 3 run like hell in every direction. So they're evacuating this losing battle, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Ethelweld, it's you see Rory ride past you on the horse, because no matter how fast you run, Rory can gallop by you, headed down toward this battle. You hear Sydney behind going, what is it? What? As you run. So where are you going, Ethelweld?
Yeah. So I'm still running towards the crowd, but I think as Rory's running past me, I say, Rory, stop. Get back to the girls. Right? They're your priority, not me.
Okay, so you'll see him pull the reins of the horse. He'll wheel around, and he'll kind of circle by you, galloping. He's in no hurry. I mean, he's moving fast. He's on a horse, but
but
you can tell he's kind of like, geez, make up your mind. They're pagans. Who cares? And he rides by. But yet, the look on his face is definitely not. He's not indifferent to what Vidar did, unlike Sydney, who appears to be okay with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's nonchalantly galloping as opposed to rushing, right?
Sure.
Okay.
But he is turning back.
Yeah, he went back.
Okay.
He's headed back.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And so I would be running in, just yelling, "Stop! Wait!"
Okay. All right, Sylvester. Back to the top. You see these 3 just take off in every direction away from Dredgewater. I mean, they're east, south. They're not going toward town center. So but they're headed out of town, right? But in every direction, these 3. You see there's still 3 surrounding Vidar. You've seen he's taken a wound in the ribs. Maybe you can hear it, see it from where you're at. As the wolves and Kane and Milt continue to descend upon this melee. So you can narrate what you're doing. You can narrate what the dogs are doing, since they're in your purview. You can narrate Kane and Milt as they are part of your prestige. So you can really narrate what these guys are doing.
So, Kane is obviously the more bloodthirsty of the 2.
Yeah, Kane is in front of everybody but the dogs, right?
Was Milt as bloodthirsty?
No. Milt was busy petting your dogs and talking to you.
Yeah, he was the friendly one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to give a sharp whistle and then a hand gesture for the dogs, and I'm going to point towards one of the 3 that is kind of like the slowest in the pack.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to shout out, Milt, follow the dogs. Take that one down. Take him alive.
Okay.
And then I'll fire on the 3 that are on... I can't do... I'll fire on the 3
all of it. So all of it happens. It's just you'll make one roll to affect the change you want to affect.
Yeah.
So if you want to apprehend one of these guys, that would be the result of your positive combat check, right?
Okay.
Right? So,
cool.
Yep, go ahead and roll, but you modify it by the biggest max. That's either the dogs or the men or your weapon. So the dogs would be 2.
That's going to be the dogs.
And they would be apprehending. So ultimately the goal here is to apprehend one of these guys alive.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a 5.
Yeah, remember, we lowered the difficulty. The mob's been cut in half, and we lowered the difficulty on the first kill. So, yes, you see the dogs. This guy, as he's fighting Vidar, he sees the dogs and is pinned between the blacksmith's fence and railing, scrambling away, trying to defend himself from these dogs that are smart enough to not engage him, but keep him barking, pinned, Milt levels a sword at the guy's, chin and says, "I think you're done," right? As you hear Milt say this as the dogs bark and have this guy captured. Vidar, go ahead, sir, and narrate this fight with these 2. As you see now, there's dogs barking. You see some soldiers show up from Watchburn. Maybe you see it. I don't know. You're in such a rage, you may not see anything but But
No, I'm maniacally laughing. You know, whenever I was bit by the seal, it was like old homecoming to me. So yes, and I'm going in deeper as far as trying to get to them. And this is my opportunity, and I am going in again.
okay, 5 is the difficulty.
Okay, and by the way, I added 1 to my luck because I've been lucky so far. Especially, I was lucky that Sylvester was coming down the hill.
Yeah, right.
And,
Okay, so your luck's up 1.
and
Okay.
and Sam hadn't gone over the hill yet.
Right.
So yeah, that was 11.
Right.
Actually. So,
11. Okay, so describe how you kill. You kill one of these guys, right? You take out one of these last 2. One is pinned up by the dogs and Milt.
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, I'll cleave through his, above his arm, down halfway into his chest, and pull it out halfway, wrenching the lung half out.
The other one, at this point, realizes it's just you now and these dogs. Ethelweld, he can see Ethelweld coming, basically looking over the shoulder of you. He can see that wagon, and he throws his weapon to the ground, surrendering. However, I don't know what, again, mental state you're in. We are going to, again, you earned a repute, but your prestige is going to be adversely affected by your, right?
Yeah,
Until it can be rectified, maybe through communication with the Lord or etc.
I'll just befriend some outlaws.
But right now, many people will perceive that prestige-wise as a hit, right? Okay, so, but it could be temporary depending on your rationale later, right? But there is, right? Okay. So anyway, you have this one guy who's thrown his hands in the air. He's dropped his weapon. He's surrendering. Barking dogs have 1. Milt has 1 at sword point. Ethelweld running up to the scene.
Yeah.
By
the way,
two dead pagans lay at the feet of Vidar.
If
there's any more,
close enough. Oh, I was going to say, if I get close enough to the Viking or the pagan who's kind of surrendered, I would attempt to sort of jump in front of him and act,
Sure,
the whole stop the axe kind of thing, right?
Vidar's. If Vidar's attacking, that's going to be between Vidar and right.
Oh yeah, I'm attacking. There's no way. I mean, you're going to stop me right now unless somebody could, snap me out of it.
Okay, well, let's make a luck check then. So roll to do your damage on this guy, and then you need to make a luck check. Ethelweld.
I do?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And luck is 6 for you, 5 for you, Vidar, to hit this pagan.
I got 12 this time.
Oh, that's a critical.
I did not. Yeah, and I rolled
not a nat 12. 12.
Oh, okay. Well, as you come down to strike this pagan, Ethelweld is unfortunately unlucky enough to get there just in time, and you strike Ethelweld with this axe. So you're going to take a wound, sir. You are now at battered, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You were fatigued. You're battered now. You realize maybe now, Vidar, that someone stepped between you and this surrendering pagan.
It's going to be odd for me because where I was, I was trying to do that, and then whenever I come down and striking, I assume he's going to cry out and crumple. And
I'm sure he
my
cries
eyes
out.
go wide.
No.
My eyes go wide, but at that moment, it's like this huge, I don't know what I've just done, So at that, I'll look down, and that recognition comes back over my face. Did you
hit Ethelweld instead of the
target?
Yeah, I had raised my axe at you again before.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. That's right.
Held it. And you lifted me up, so this time the axe didn't come down. Right?
Yeah.
So when it hits you and bit into you, it's going to leave a mark. And I pick the axe up and throw it to the side and drop down on my knees and try to catch you as you fall, crumple you, and lay you to the ground. And I look up and around, and I need help. I need help. I'll just start crying out for help as he's,
Kane and Milt turn toward you, Sylvester. Ah, you are you have a quick eye, sir. Look at this. We have already apprehended and disbanded the fools. And Kane and Milt take these two in custody. We are taking these up to a Washburn. Is that? I mean, they're they're asking, but that's kind of what they're going to do.
They're looking up the hill,
right? And they've got both of these pagans at sword point, right?
Yeah. So I was kind of following them down, but as they turn and they look up and they're saying this to me, all they can see is my silhouette of, against the backdrop of the bright, clouded sky, and I just look at the body of Martin on the ground and shake my head again and look at Vidar, and all you can hear is, "What have you done? What have you done?"
Yeah, all I'm hearing is just like my own voice crying out for aid.
Yeah, that's.
I look at Aethelwald.
Aethelwald's wounded.
Well, yeah, I'm taking your statement as what have I done to Aethelwald?
Right.
Telling
to punctuate that point, maybe I think you probably would have grazed my head or my face, not so much to be a really bad injury, but enough that there's blood covering.
Right, it looks worse. It bleeds. Really, it looks worse than it is. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'll kind of as they're taking the pagans away, kind of kneel down, start smearing some of the blood away from Aethelwald's face, and looking at him and said, "You're much hardier for a priest than I ever expected in a place like this. But you're going to need some before you can leave."
Yeah.
Sorry. You said I'm going to need some what?
You're going to need some tending to before you leave.
Yeah. Right. As you say this, the wagon pulls up. The girls are looking down on this wound, whimpering. Sydney and Rory on horseback say, we will fetch the girls back to the manse, and we will find Falcone. He can take the girls to Howardtown. No.
Okay. Falcone must, I would say, and the way I'm going to say it is, no, Falcone must stay here and tend to the matters of the town. We have been tasked with bringing these girls, but just wait a minute.
Yeah.
Be patient.
Right.
And I'm
right, bleeding and Rory's looking at you like you ain't going to Howardtown the way you look, right? Rory thinks like there ain't no way you're going in the condition you're in. He doesn't know how bad you're wounded, right?
Right. And so I think probably what I would do at this point is, being able to. I think Vidar is at the very least, if he wasn't sitting, it seems like he's kneeled down or whatever. And I think what I would do is I would kind of pull myself up at least to the same height as him. And I'm not totally aware of what my face looks like. Obviously, I know there's some blood.
Right.
But my goal, I would put my hands kind of on his shoulders, or if he's not looking at me, try to put it on, move his face up to look at me. And I would say to him, I would say, Vidar, this is not the way. This is not what our Lord has called you to do. What came over you? And I cough a little bit.
It's blood.
Blood out a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, it seeped down my face into my. Yeah.
I've taken the axe that I obviously dropped it to pick him up, and I'll look at the axe again. I shall never use it again. Grab it and throw it further from me, from us. I am sorry, Father. I am sorry. And, I'll do it. You tell him very repentant at this moment. And I'm just missing. I'll look over at Sylvester. Sylvester, you came just in time. They could have taken. I'll look around and I'll.
There's no one left except Peen hanging in the stocks, watching all of this, right?
But I'll have the necklace. You know what I mean? And the one that was dead too. I'll reach over there and I'll start searching in real quick to pull off any kind of insignia, and I'll show it to Sylvester.
Yeah.
But I've got 2 bastards.
Mhm.
Got
Yeah,
2.
they're definitely have druid,
Oh,
and
Yeah.
one of them clearly is Von Mort's men. He's wearing a kit. However, the kit is disguised, right? He's got a uniform, but it's his cloak is turned inside out, so to speak. So if he was wearing it, normally you would see the black and gold of Von Mort's heraldry. What do you call that? Well, uniform, basically his kit.
his coat of arms or
Coat
whatever.
of arms, correct.
Yeah.
So one of these men that you just cut down was clearly, and maybe the one that got an arrow in the back also would be one of Von Mort's men. So Cindy, of course, would remark, "Why, you've only done what Lord Washburn decree, aside from wounding the holy man." Right. So Sydney's take is you haven't done anything wrong, except kill people Washburn has said are, to be killed, so to speak. Well,
I hope
not
the
so
Lord
much pagans,
smites
but
that man.
Von Mort's men, right? Yeah.
Mike Sidney, a lightning bolt comes out and strikes him. Whoa, what coincidence?
Now, remind me, Vidar was a former soldier. Was that his backstory, if I remember correctly?
He had been a Viking turned farmer,
Oh,
right?
okay.
No? I don't know. What is that right?
Yeah. Well, originally Vidar had sailed, and he got to the point where the promise of land or whatever had to be paid up to him. So they kind of dumped him off on the riverway, and he moved up and associated with the with the community, but he lived on the lower end of it.
Became a family
So
man.
he'd have rushes. He married one of the girls. He'd be a thatcher, putting the houses up, made the rush lights, and then that flood came through and wiped everything out.
Okay.
That was it.
I'll turn over and go and pick up the axe. I say we need to get Aethelwald, bandaged up.
Mm-hmm.
And
You haven't lost.
At that, I would say, no, I'm fine. And then I realize, at this point, I probably look really bad.
Yeah. Yeah, the girls are crying. It's like they won't even look at you, right?
Well, and so from my perspective, what I'm thinking is that they are crying because they witnessed the murder of these innocent people.
Well,
right?
that's true,
but
they're also
that's not
they
why
can't
they're crying.
stand the fact that now you've got an axe in the skull, as far as they're concerned.
Yeah, right. And I'd say I've had wounds worse than this. It is fine, which is probably not entirely true, but
right.
But what's happening to me is I have this major intensity because what I heard initially was Vidar say, "I'm sorry," and I thought he meant, "I'm sorry for what I did to the pagan," but then he held up the thing and said, "I got 2 of the bastards," and so.
No, I did say I'm sorry. I was saying, "Christ, forgive me and everything for what happened to you." It's just when I pulled out of it and Sylvester came up to me, then I looked at him and almost an apology out the way, but to show that I was still worth it. I said, "But I've got 2 of the bastards."
Right. But so to me, what I'm hearing is, "I'm sorry that I hurt you, Christian priest, but I'm not sorry at all that I hurt those pagans," right?
Yeah.
Correct.
And so to me, what I'm realizing is that Washburn and Falcone have been so much worse than I had even realized, that it had turned someone who had received baptism and had been a professed Christian into this, right? And so I again would look to Vidar and I would say, "Vidar, God has not called on us to kill these men, and neither has Lord Washburn. You see, they have asked us to bring these men into the faith. But your actions today make it so that they cannot receive the forgiveness that you received."
Okay. This man needs help. He talks out of his head. And I look
His
at
faith is stronger than mine.
I look at the axe. Well, I mean, I've been inundated with that's my MO.
Yeah.
With it had obviously been injured. I'm really. But anyway, I'll look for that axe, and this blade I shall never wield again. And then I stand there and I pick it up.
I already got it.
I know.
Yeah, Sylvester has it.
Yeah, I already have it.
Okay, but
So when you look around, you see me with it on my shoulder.
Right.
okay. Well, I can come up to you. I have no use for the axe anymore, but I could use a mace. I can still crush a skull without.
Okay. Okay, so that prestige loss is permanent. So where are you at in prestige?
Oh, well, jeez.
You were at 0?
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, so you'll be at -1 now. So now
-1.
you're going to be perceived as a very, So it's going to take a little more work now to redeem yourself in the eyes of whoever's witnessing this, as well as your comrades. So that's
still a
fine.
warrior,
You
but
didn't do anything illegal, but definitely Vidar
I won't shed blood. I won't
Right.
shed blood, but I can be a warrior for God without doing that. Since I did
Right.
draw
Right.
priest blood, is what I'm saying.
Right.
So that's what I'm asking.
I get you.
Sylvester.
I misunderstood you. So I thought you were just saying, I won't use the axe anymore, but I'm still going to kill people.
Oh, yeah, I am. But
Yeah.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying I'm not going to shed blood since I already shed this priest blood.
Well, then I'll
The
ask
Christ
you:
is-
do you think it should be a negative prestige?
That's up to you. This is what I'm
Well,
telling you. That's
I don't necessarily know. Is prestige largely based on the region that you're in?
Well, it's but it would also affect game mechanically as far as giving orders to peasants.
Sure.
Uh,
Sure.
People would fear him. They might. He'd be an outlaw, and he would probably be ostracized by many peasants. He would be
This is my situation in a
at
nutshell,
-1.
okay?
I mean, at -1 in Dredgewater, people would probably give him a wide berth, right?
Well,
I
there is.
don't think I'm a danger necessarily.
Okay,
This can sum it up.
right,
As far as my whole deal was, I added Christ to my pantheon.
right.
And these pagans are bringing into Christ's land. They're coming in here
Right.
and doing this, which I don't need.
Right.
That's why I said I worship Thor on the sea, Christ here.
Right.
So they're messing up things for me.
Gotcha.
And so I got to take these priests. I
Okay.
got to take this out. And I just shed a priest's blood,
Okay,
which I'm not going to allow myself to do that. So I'm asking Sylvester to give me a bludgeoning weapon. So I
right.
won't
Right.
do. But
Gotcha.
yeah, I can still work on God's behalf.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
okay.
if I can add to that, if the townspeople are really still kind of under the way of Washburn and Falcone's thinking, then to me, the way I would interpret that is that this was not necessarily be unexpected
No.
of a
Well, and most of you saw it, and
Oh.
only a few
Yeah.
passersby saw it, right?
sure, but at the end of the day, he killed pagans.
Right.
Not
Which is-
just
But he killed Martin,
One of-
who is a citizen
one
who
of
was
the-
running the Dredgewater Arms. He killed a guy who's been running the arms for the Washburns for years.
but
That's why I got the evidence
Right,
in my hands.
right.
Like,
so
Buddy, yeah.
yeah, he's got that. I mean, because we're right now we haven't been able to like really kind of like close this little mini story that's going on right there. But
Correct.
it's not just pagans.
Right.
Remember,
Mort.
Mortsmen
Yeah.
are involved now, and
Right.
so
And
While
Mortsmen
it
are
may-
definitely. Well, let's put it this way. I would give him a -1 in prestige until somebody can bear witness that Martin was an enemy of the state.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
So
that would
someone's
make
going to
sense
have to
me,
bear
too.
witness to Washburn that Vidar killed an enemy of the state, and then that will rectify his -1 prestige. Is that fair?
What? Why you gotta-
Vidar's focus is on the peripheral. If I heard Sylvester say anything about Mortsmen, it went in one ear and out
Right,
the other because
right.
I'm focused on
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with Vidar's actions. It's how people perceive it. And,
Yeah.
and
Oh, that's
Lord
fine,
Washburn may not perceive Martin as that kind of pagan, right?
Mhm.
yeah.
Right.
But if someone were to help tie
Right.
these little threads together,
Yes.
That's why we play.
and you know.
Sylvester needs to be like a professional witness because,
Yeah.
like, you're getting now. You have to bear witness to two people now.
Right.
Like, that's going to be expensive, man. That's
Yeah.
taking your time. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
I need a raise.
yeah.
That's what I'm showing Sylvester. You know what I mean? I'm working on your behalf too. Lord Washburn, whilst these pagans taken him out, I just killed 2 of them.
Right.
Well, and
You know,
that's
my
a lot of this will come to fruition here because eventually I'm going to have to go and talk to him about Jules.
Right.
But you know, I'm looking at Martin. I'm thinking about what I was trying to achieve there.
Right.
In the midst of what Viadar's, you know, and kind of the same thing. I hear Viadar talking to me and saying, you know, I won't use the weapon. I won't shed blood. Give me something, you know, else. Yeah. And I'm looking at Martin laying on the ground going, this fire is just going to spread.
Yeah.
Because now I have no connection to get back. And then my gaze swings over to Pin.
Yeah.
Still stuck in the stock.
Yeah. And in about 45 minutes, he'll be executed publicly, and no one's here to watch it because the pagans have been scattered, and Ethelwald convinced them to go home. Don't pay witness to
the Christians. Yeah.
So the irony is they're going to come down and draw and quarter Peen in front of an empty Dredgewater.
So
it's
I'm
amazing.
Turn to, or looking down at Ethelwald, I'll say, if you say you're okay, but you don't look okay to me as a soldier, then just get yourself bandaged. If you need help, I can petition Lord Washburn to catch up with you later. But I have some questions for that man in the stocks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Rory is suggesting that he take the girl back to the manse and that you leave when Ethelwald is ready. You know,
and well, and I would say
if you release them, Ethelwald, they'll take the girls back up to the manse.
No, I think that at this point, right, Ethelwald, he's hearing all this, right, and I would kind of just bow my head in prayer for a minute and be like, you know, Lord, this is way harder than I ever expected. Tell me what I'm supposed to do. Do I try to help this person who just committed murder, but who doesn't, in the eyes of the law, need it yet? He's justified, right? And yet, how do I reconcile that with the mission that I'm on? And I think that I come to this realization that right now, Dredgewater is so toxic in terms of its beliefs and its thinking that what I should do is get the girls out of here as fast as I can, and then figure out the next step, because where my head is starting to go is that it's not the pagans that need conversion, but it's these Christians that need the light or whatever. And so
temperament,
and so what I imagine there will be a lot of prayer and repentance for this later, but what starts seeping into my head is, would it be so bad if the pagans came in and drove these Christians out? Because who's actually worse right now?
Right.
And so,
well, at least
the
decree from the Lord for Dredgewater County is certainly perpetuating potential, right?
Yeah.
So
it's purged the pagans, but he says them. So what I would say is, I'm fine. I don't need assistance, but I do need to be about the mission that I was set upon, which is to take these girls to, is it Howardtown or
Howardtown?
Howardtown.
Yeah.
And that's what I intend to do.
So Rory would get off his horse and unpack his saddlebags and basically tend your wound right here in the street in front of everyone. Sylvester, what are you doing while because Ethelwald, at this point, they'll reload the wagon and head out immediately once Rory bandages up Ethelwald. So what are you two doing? Yeah.
Maya and Barbara and I are walking back over towards the stocks. What does this scene look like as I turn around? Ethelwald says, I'm fine. Rory begins to kind of like open up his pack and pull out,
Yeah.
some cloth bandage.
You'll
and stuff,
notice standing in the doorway of the blacksmith shop is Dahl, the blacksmith. He's leaning on the door with a smirk on his face. He's just watched all of this literally from the doorway of his blacksmith shop, shaking his head, looks over at Peen, and you realize there's a few people passing around the Dredgewater proper. There might be a few people in and out of the Blackleaf Inn. However, there's no one like here waiting now for the big execution. There's no executioner here yet.
Okay.
They haven't brought down the horses for the drawing and quartering. And it's, again, it's supposed to be around roughly midday that they're going to execute Peen. But right now, it's you guys and the blacksmith probably standing 15 feet from where all this went down, the blacksmith.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm going to approach Peen.
Okay. He's hanging in the stocks, filthy, beaten, battered. As you get closer, you realize how swollen his eyes are. He has been beaten severely. Probably part of interrogation at some point.
Yeah.
Mouth swollen badly, eyes swollen shut. An old wound that is caked in blood. That he's covered in tomatoes, rotten food and filth, shit. People have flung mud and I wouldn't say shit, but mud and manure at him, right? And he, out of one eye, he kind of looks at you. Snot. Okay. He's freezing to death as he's basically dressed in a loincloth.
Vidar, are you still with Aethelwald?
No, I'm going over to when I mentioned that about that, I caught sight of the blacksmith, and since he said he's out there, I'll walk over to Dar Reynolds, and that's when I will speak with him, and especially since he witnessed it, about that these pagans need to be cleared out of the land. I was able to doing that, but I've shed a priest's blood, and I would like. Does he have anything I can do? Some kind of bludgeoning weapon, and I will begin to haggle with him and will and deal and see what we can. Okay.
Yep.
So I'll occupy him.
Okay.
So as Peen is looking up, with his swollen eye, I grab him by the chin and thump his head on the back of his stocks and kind of lean in close to his ear and just begin to whisper, if you even think that there's some way that I can bring peace to this, because my only man is now dead, you're gonna have to help me before you die. In Diana's name, you're gonna have to help me before you die.
Mm-hmm.
I'm basically telling him by saying Diana's name that
Yeah.
I am a pagan of
Right.
the old Roman gods, and I'm really like leaning into his ear
Right.
so no one else can hear what we're saying.
He turns kind of toward you. So if you're whispering in his ear, he turns toward you. This eye totally swollen shut.
Yeah.
So he can probably just see your arm and your lower body.
And the two dogs.
Yeah,
kind
the
of
two
around
dogs
underneath him.
you smell now the smell of urine. He's probably at some point pissed himself here and shit himself. He starts to open his mouth to speak, and blood pours from his mouth as you see now he's probably lost some teeth at some point. And he says, What more can I say?
Give me someone I can talk to. Tell me where I can find someone before this whole thing burns the entire village of Dredgewater down.
He spits up. That would be Jarek, the Viking.
Is he in league with Mort's men?
He is in league with... He coughs a little bit, splutters. He is in league with anyone who will contribute to his ultimate prize. And he coughs and splutters again.
And what is that?
Dredgewater.
So he seeks to take this land.
He wants Dredgewater.
I let go of his chin. Kind of, in frustration, I sling my bow. My hand kind of slides across the dagger at my hilt. As I'm kind of beginning to come to the realization that there might not be anything I can do to stop what's coming.
Well, you've learned that he's a Viking. Before you just thought he was a druid.
Yeah.
You've learned now that he's a Viking.
But that means that he, to me, one, he's a raider. If he's seeking alliances and he's taken up with Mort, then that means he's going to have Mort's backing. I've seen that now more than once. I'm just beginning to come to the realization that I'm just going to have to tell Lord Washburn. I'm going to piece together the stories when I see Lord Washburn. Try and save Martin's name so that at least to me he hasn't died a traitor.
Right.
Take some of the mud from Viadar's face while I'm doing this as well to try and clean up everything that's happened, but let Washburn know that this could be war coming our way. With my hand on the dagger, I really want to turn around and kill this man myself in the stocks, but I know that I wasn't sent here to do Lord Washburn's justice. And I look back over where Vidar is at, and I take off towards my house, towards my father's home.
Okay. Dogs follow right in behind you?
Yeah, dogs follow behind me.
Okay. So Vidar, you negotiate, not a problem. Dar is more than willing to provide you with a weapon, as he's witnessed your abilities with a weapon. He makes no judgment upon your executing justice, so to speak, since it has been decreed any wrongdoers be dealt with capital punishment, especially von Mort's men. So, he readily will go through his stocks and give you a mace. You're muted.
Actually, what I'm doing, I'm talking with him about making a holy weapon to go after the pagans, and I want him to have my land. That was bequeathed. I'm frank with him, telling him the situation, that I'd lost everything, but now I'm a warrior for Christ, keeping these lands pagan free.
Okay,
and,
he acknowledges. Give me a fortnight. I will build you a fine weapon.
Okay.
I will have it in a fortnight. The best weapon I can make. And he acknowledges he will gladly take your land. Right. You did offer your land, correct?
Oh yeah. If I can get a morning star from him, or
okay.
A mace, or either
Yep. But it will take a fortnight to make such a fine weapon for such a holy calling.
Yeah, that's fine. I've got it. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, nothing.
Okay.
I'll put that later.
And so you're doctored up now here, Ethelweld. You're back on the wagon, and Rory at this point says we must make time, as we've lost now almost midday. As you top the hill, which is the last highest point down into Dredgewater, looking back at the river and back at the Gold Leaf Inn, the Black Leaf Inn, the church, the little church, and everything you've witnessed and seen. And what a morning. A few hours sleep, and in just a few hours in the morning, you have seen madness. But as you look back, you see the 4 horses arrive at the stocks. You see the soldiers climb off the horses to prepare Peen for his drawing and quartering. The executioner, they go on about this, even though there's nobody there. They're shocked in a way. They come down to the village to perform this, thinking there's going to be madness, a massive crowd of onlookers, but it would be almost surreal to see them go about this with no one to see it but you, as you top the hill on the wagon looking back. And within a few moments, he has been disemboweled as they draw out his intestines and then tie all 4 limbs to these horses. And within moments, you see the horses go. And at this point, from the distance, you really you can't even see the details so much as these 4 horses just run in different directions as job done. And down the hill now, all you can see ahead of you is the forest and the old Empire Road. And Rory says back to you, it is now a day and a half, 2 days on this old road east. And Sydney snaps the reins and the wagon pulls. Sylvester, tell me how far your home is. And also, you're supposed to post execution have a meeting with Lord Washburn. Are you ignoring that meeting?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to the house to get Jules.
Gotcha.
Because I told him to go there.
Correct.
Sans the escort of Cain and Milt.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Jules would be there, of course. Thanks you profusely for saving him from this madness.
I kind of I accept his thanks, but I tell him it wasn't your fault. I was the one who gave you the food. I was the one who told you what to do. This cannot be seen as a crime.
It is not. It is not about fault. I agreed. I wanted to do something other than murder pagans.
But there are more pressing matters, which I hope will lighten whatever Lord Washburn might say in your respect. Mm-hmm. And I will try as best I can to lend my words in your favor. And I shake my head as well as my friend Viadar. Mm-hmm. And I don't tell him the full details. I just say, the pagans that were present, we had a melee, and Brother Aethelwald has left, and there is still so much for me to do. Mm-hmm. And I, hurry him to Washburn's behind the wall, behind the palisade.
Jules tells you, do not sacrifice, do not fall on your blade for me. I wanted to do something for the pagans.
Don't say that. I immediately look at him with daggers and say no such thing in Diana's name.
Okay.
And it's probably the first time he's ever heard me say something like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
he actually pauses on the walk, not surprised by it, and then looks you up and down, and then nods and says, "I will trust your guidance in this, Sylvester." And he's mum for the remainder of the walk to the palisade. Unless you speak to him, he doesn't say anything else.
I'm pretty set. My mind is thinking about all the bits and pieces that I will have to sew together.
Right. Right.
To present in front of Lord Washburn.
I don't know your demeanor. Now, Vidar, what are you doing while Sylvester is going to have his debrief, so to speak, with Lord Washburn?
After I took him to Dar Reynolds, I turn around and obviously Sylvester's gone as his dogs. I probably called the end of the drawing and quartering.
Yeah, you might. You guys, Darren, you might be the only guys that watched it actually within a few feet of it, right?
The father has already left, right?
Falcone vanished when the people started pelting him with stuff. Who knows where Falcone went?
I didn't see that, but I did see Sam's character.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Ethelwald. Yeah. Yes, he's on the wagon over the hill and on his way. Yeah.
So I turn around and Ethelwald's gone, right?
Yeah.
And I'd left him with the girls or whatever, and he's like that, and I don't see Sylvester anywhere.
Yeah, you stand alone except for Dar.
Yeah, I'll start immediately asking around anybody I see. Where did they go? Which way? Maybe I look down and see.
Let's make a prestige check here, sir. -1.
Yeah. Okay, that's 5.
Yeah, most people will scramble away from you if they see you coming their way. They're pretty mum. Dar at some point will call out to you, "You sir are a pariah," and he laughs and he ducks his head and goes, because he's a big man, about 6'6", ducks his head and goes back into the blacksmith shop.
But I still look at him like I don't understand. I'm just, like
Right.
pagan, just, like that. And I see them as like people that actually can't stomach battle.
Right. Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
They witness something like that. So
Right.
they don't really, I'll do that for a while, and I'll notice if the tracks of the wagon have gone, I'll start looking for tracks a little bit to see,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you would know that he was headed out of town at some point. You would have seen him pass by you when you were pursuing Martin. So you would know that Ethelwald at some point was headed. You would have heard that in the conversations. So if you want to on foot pursue the wagon, you certainly can.
Okay. I mean, can I see it up over the rise or whatever?
Sure. I'm sure you would have. Yeah. I mean, because the blacksmith's doing work in his. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason you wouldn't have seen the wagon at some point.
Well, and I imagine they're noisy, and the horses would be whatever,
yeah.
and the girls were crying.
And
so
it was
yeah,
the only wagon on the road because this was right.
Yeah. Well, mainly what I'm doing is I've still got to lead this to somewhat to Sylvester, but I see him as capable, and I think he's off like that. I don't want to leave without letting him know, so I go back to Dar Reynolds and I'll let him know that tell Sylvester I shall return. I must needs make amends to. I believe the priest is left on his own.
Yeah, as you leave, he'll whistle and get your attention and say, "Take old Vicky in the back, the horse. The saddle's on the fence." So he'll loan you his horse to go.
And I'll stop and pause a little bit and look at it until my weapon is done. Have you got something I can wield in the priest's defense?
Yeah. So he just thumbs through, picks up a heavy old mace. I mean, it's good, and he hands it to you, and he said, "It's." And this is when you notice his tattoos. This is when you notice his scars. That he too obviously had been a Viking. So. This is when you realize Dar. This is why maybe Dar understands what you're about, what you've done, maybe even more than you do, right? And he hands you.
I look at him with a knowing look, and then he's in the same position. But he didn't balk when I say, and he's obviously giving me his horse and a mace to go protect the priest. So I look at him with thanks, and kind of nod my head or whatever, and then I'll turn around and run off and grab old Vicky and. Head up the thing to chase down the wagon.
Okay. All right. I don't know your demeanor, Sylvester, as you approach. Are your dogs with you? Are you stoic? Are you red-faced, fuming?
I'm pretty stoic because I've got a lot, to think about as I'm going up there. The dogs, I will, when we kind of arrive, we go through the main gate at the palisade. And I will ask the watch there if they will watch the hounds while I report to Lord Washburn.
All right. Let me make a... Gentlemen, this is only my third roll. Can you believe it? Okay, and it's a double, and I doubled it. I only made 2 rolls. This would have been my third, and it was a double, so we're okay. But I wanted to make another roll just to see if there's anything going on here that might affect the mans. Okay. As you approach, of course, the dogs will wander off, smelling the ground, chasing chickens, maybe looking for prints. Wesweld's wolfhound is from their, of course, a stock from your family's breed. John greets you with a big smile. To be honest, he has been in council with his soldiers. He has seen Cain. He's heard from Cain and Milt what transpired. And he greets you proudly with a big handshake and a smile. He doesn't know much else that's happened, right? That part he's not aware of. So it might be jarring to him, depending on whether you are stone-faced or how you greet John. But John greets you as if this is a big score. You've captured a couple of Mort's men, Cain and Milt. He doesn't even mention Jules. He sees Jules is with you, so whatever Cain and Milt told him, he's aware that you clearly took care of the Jules problem, because here's Jules. You brought Jules back. So anything Cain and Milt might have said that would have made him worry, the fact that Jules is right there with you, waylays any of those concerns, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Uh, so, I say not to sour your mood, but you've obviously already heard about Mort's men, and that these matters are much more serious than I was aware of. And I kind of explained to him on the way to talk to Lord Washburn that, you know, that Martin was killed by Viadar, but that Viadar had found something out that I didn't know before, and that was that Martin had been in contact with the pagans.
Okay.
And that Martin was probably involved in this more than I knew. And then basically saying, those tracks must have been either Mort's men, this man, Jarek, he is a Viking, he is probably a Druidic priest. My understanding after interrogating Payne in the stocks is that he wants these lands, and that we may see more blood come to these lands.
You must tell Lord Washburn everything you know. And with that, you just meet the doors. The doors swing open. Washburn sits at the long dinner table. He seems to be, every time you see him now, he's alone with servants, and he's generally seated at a dinner table. He appears to be not facing any of he doesn't put the same restrictions of the famine upon himself and his family, obviously. He stands, he raises, and he, with a big smile, comes around the table to greet you with a handshake. Sylvester, good to see you. And he gives you a big, he gives you a soldier's handshake and a bit of a hug. Please be seated. You must be tired. You must be spent. I've heard tell from Milt that you have waylaid Mort's men who plan to cause much havoc down at the execution of the pagan witch.
Yes, and I regret to be the bringer of even more foul machinations of Lord Mort at such a fine dinner table, my lord. But I must ask that if you can see it in your good judgment to forgive Jules his transgression.
Speak bluntly. Jules' transgression. What do you know of Jules' transgression?
Jules needed help.
By the way, Jules isn't here. They took him into custody, and you came, right, just so you know that there's no... Yeah, okay.
I say, after the slaying of the wolves at the gate, who were attacking the priest Aethelwald, I recovered some of that meat and a few bones, and bade Jules to take care of some of our villagers who have not been so well off. There were many men in the village and children who were in the snow outside at the Blackleaf who needed to be fed, and I bade him with these bones to make them broth.
If you say it is so, Sylvester, then all is forgiven for Jules. He's a good man. He's been here among us for a long time. I am happy to hear you explain that situation.
I thank you, Lord, for your grace.
He snaps, and you see it when he looks away. He looks as though he maybe hasn't slept in a few days. Heavy wrinkles. He snaps for a servant. Bade, tell the jailer to free Jules after 16 lashes. And the servant bows, backs away, and heads out the door.
Okay. I don't bat an eye. I mean, I don't make any kind of acknowledgement that internally I was hoping for better, but
yeah, John starts to say something to Washburn. Washburn, his eyes pass yours, makes eye contact as he rolls over to John and puts a finger up. John shuts.
Yeah. I say,
and then
but that is...
he makes eye contact with you again. You have more, Sylvester.
Yes, I have more. When I was sent to the Washburn Arms to bring Martin back is where I discovered the cart, which we retrieved and brought back. but there were prints in the snow. While I was there and confronted Martin about the traffic outside Washburn's Arms.
Yes, John has told me of the wagon and the troubles with the pagans at... Yes, I'm aware of this. Go ahead.
But there were more of Mort's men, I'm sure, among those. Mm-hmm. So his men are probably close, and they are probably watching. And I fear that they are in league with the Viking, the sea people, who are seeking to take back these lands or take these lands for themselves with the backing of Lord Mort. This was discovered by Viadar, who I am sure rumor may spread that he had killed an innocent man, but Martin was not innocent by any means.
No pagans are innocent. And he stands, walks away over to the window, pushes the shutters open and looks out over the palisade. John looks at you and shakes his head.
Yeah, I don't say anything. I let him go.
He stands for a minute. He turns toward you. Yes, it is clear. You tell me of a Viking, Jarek? This is new. I have not heard of it. He looks at John. What do you know of this? What do your men tell you? John shrugs. Sir, Vikings in the winter are always about camping and waiting until the height of the season. He, kind of turns away, looks out again, turns back towards you, Sylvester. What is it you know of this man, Jarek, the Viking?
I just know from interrogating Pin at the stocks that his plan in the end is to try and take these lands. The only way he can do that is to join forces with someone who is stronger than his small clan he may have present here in our lands. And as we know, our biggest enemy is Lord Mort.
Then it is time. We must bring all civilians behind this gate that are Christian. They are to be saved or converted, brought behind the walls. We are to raise the fjord in defense of this country. All pagans who will not convert, and he looks at you, Sylvester, will be enemies of the state.
I'm stone-faced. So far, the only two people who have ever heard me say anything have been...
Right.
Peen, who's now dead.
Yeah, right.
And Jules, whose life I am basically saving. So.
Yeah. So he snaps his finger and scribe. This is to be decreed. All pagans will convert publicly, and they will make their oath and swear their allegiance to the church and to God and to myself. We will raise the fjord, and we will destroy any pagan and any Viking and any army that sets foot. And we may finally have to take the battle to Von Mort ourselves. This decree is as of this date. He gives the date, and then he marks it with wax and seals it. Said, this will be copied. The criers will speak this throughout the land and hang it. Not that the people can read, the fools. Then he turns to John, and he says, John, begin the process of raising the fjord. He looks at you, Sylvester, and says, you must get your men together, and it is now time we scout and we find out what we deal with. You must take your men and find out what this Jarek is about and what his army looks like, where they are at, and what their situation is. Sylvester.
As my lord's orders, it will be done.
I want you to take with you Wesweld. He is 17. It is time. You will be directly responsible for my oldest son, the heir apparent. And he can bring his dog Prince. Although he's not as well trained as your dogs, you are now responsible. He looks at you and says, do not let anything happen to the heir apparent.
Of course.
He's like, but no pressure or anything.
Oh, yeah, no.
But you can see he's not slept in days. He's clearly a little deranged in the way his eyes and his demeanor. He's almost frothing at the mouth at the idea of dealing with these pagans. And in a way, it's almost what he wanted to hear, an actual all-out war against the pagans, right?
Yeah. Now say his name again.
Who? Wesweld is the oldest son, a 17-year-old with his dog Prince. He is the heir apparent. Teach him your ways. He must learn of these things if he is to one day rule Dredgewater.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you've met Wesweld. I mean, you watch the kid grow up, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know how old you are, but you know of him, and of course you know his dog as he, the family. So at that point, he doesn't say a word to you or John, and just leaves the room, leaving you both sitting there at the dinner table. Scribe is up. He's off out to obviously copy this and to give it to the crier. You and John sit there. John kind of stands slowly.
I do. I as well. We're kind of watching John.
Whistles through his teeth, and says it is something that, well, it is something I had hoped Dredgewater would be free of. War. And he turns and he sticks his hands on your shoulders. He looks away, and then he walks away out the door, leaving you standing there in the dining room.
Okay, so as John is just about getting ready to walk through the door, I will say, as long as Lord Mort lives, we will always be in peril.
And he stops at the door, and you just see him nod yes. He doesn't turn and look, and then he pushes the doors open and evacuates. So he clearly is in agreement with that, right? Yeah.
Okay, and then I'll make my way out. I got to go to the barracks and try and get what time? Now it was noon when he was drawn and quartered.
It's probably 1 o'clock or so. Yeah.
Okay, it's about an hour later. I'm going to go head to the small kitchen by the barracks. I'm going to get something to eat. I'm going to feed my dogs, and I'm going to have some small beer and think about this for a second.
Right. And unless you gentlemen have anything you want to add, that's where we'll end the session, unless you want to have an outro narration of what you're doing. We have Ethelweld in the wagon. As night falls, you grow to a crossroads. Rory points to an area in which it's a pretty public camp. Fairly safe, as lots of travelers camp. It's the best they can do to be as public as possible. And Vidar, of course, riding hard on old Vicky, and she is indeed old Vicky. And it won't be long after nightfall you will find Ethelweld and Rory and Sydney and the girls camping. And Sylvester, you will have fed yourself, your dogs, and while in repose, examine this crazy morning and this crazy day. And that will conclude Chronicles 2. Cool?
Awesome. I'm good with it.
Awesome. I'm going to stop it here. You guys want to have a post-mortem conversation, or do you want to leave the recording going, or what?
It doesn't matter to me either way.
Well, we can record some of this. What the hell? Let's talk about it. Well,
Sure.
Did you have fun? That's most important. Did we have a good time?
Well,
Absolutely.
what I like best is it's fun without just the, I mean, for lack of a better term, murder hoboism.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not just, I kill another goblin. I kill another goblin.
Yeah.
I mean, there was great redirection. I didn't, just like Sam, I did not expect that to happen.
No, neither did I. None of us did. But that's character, right? When you're in character, characters act, right? Yeah.
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 And a lot of it, especially in Sylvester's situation, for me, a lot of it is just convenience.
Right.
Martin is now dead. Now I don't have to cover up that. I can just make up a story because
in
that
a way
was
you're
between me and
relieved.
Martin.
At the same time, you're sad that a man's dead, but in a way, that's a witness you don't have to deal with now.
Yeah. And I as too, like what was going on with Sam, I was really, I don't know. I was hoping that he was going to go for I freshen up some of this, purify food and water or whatever of the food that people had in their hands. That they
right. Right. Go for
let's see if Sam's is going to go for another miracle right here in front of
that would have been awesome. Yeah. Well, to me, he was rolling to convince these people that they've been following the. I saw it as him saying, laying a serious guilt trip on these people that are about to chuck fruit at him, right?
Yeah, it was a
that's
good
what I
Catholic
saw, right?
guilt trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, that was a miracle. All
yeah,
right?
and then
I
the
mean,
role was determined whether they actually turned on
yeah.
him or on Falcone, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, another amazing moment. By the way, you guys actually get the repute because you did deal with the major dilemma. So let me pull it up. So this will blow your mind. The first thing I rolled was number 12, Viking Camp Jarek. That was the first roll I made. The second roll I made was number 10, Jules Arrested. Those were the only two things we dealt with the whole that I didn't. And then I made the final roll, and it was 10 again, Jules Arrested. So that was the final roll. So that entire session was really finding out that Jarek was a Viking and had a camp instead of what you thought he was, which was a druid from the first session.
Yeah.
He was disguised as a pagan druid, but he's a Viking, camp. And then I rolled Jules Arrested. The rest of it was all the major and minor dilemma, which to me is pretty remarkable. There were not but 2 random seeds rolled, and the rest was the major dilemma, which was pagans prepare. I'm sorry, not the dilemma. The killing of Peen, and the pagans.
Yeah.
So basically, inciting incident with the pagans. Once you executed, they were going to turn and attack all the Christians in the town square. You guys basically eliminated that threat before Peen even was Ethelwald got rid of the Christians. So the pagans would have had no one to kill except stop the actual assassination of Peen. Yeah. And of course, because of what Vidar did, it's like, oh my God, there's no pagans left. There's no Christians left. Peen is executed like he was supposed to be. But you guys actually dealt with the major dilemma, which was stop the pagans from slaughtering Christians in the square. So you guys all get a repute for, and you guys actually did that midway through the session.
But
well, no, I mean, you remedied it. You still remedied it, even if you didn't know it was coming. You remedied the problem that was the pagans and the Christians in the town square. And again, that's how it works. So if you guys actually remedy the major dilemma or a minor dilemma, you get a repute point, and you guys did that. So you'll all have another repute point. So you guys will all be at repute 6, I think. Won't you?
No, I'll be at repute 8.
Wow. Yeah. Holy cow. Yeah. So at this point, your character is definitely going to be viewed in the world. A 10 is the king. So 8 is pretty serious. At some point, you're going to be... some point, you don't answer to Falcone ever. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, I think Falcone is only a 5, right? In the rule book, I think Falcone is a 5.
I think so. Yeah. So I'll have to be known as Archbishop Ethelwald.
You may not actually have the church thing, but your character is. By the time you get to Howardtown, stories of you may have beaten you there.
Right. Yeah, the miracle of Dredgewater and all that. Yeah.
Sylvester, what is yours? 7?
6.
You're at 6? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. And where are you at, Vidar? Because you scored one for, murdering basically a friendly NPC is what that amounted to.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that would be, if it started at 3, that would be 6.
Okay. So you're at 6 with a -1 prestige, which can be remedied through action, of course, right? Or you can spend this repute to negate that -1 and be at 0.
No, that's not Vidar's MO. I like just playing the character.
If you want to min-max, get rid of that -1 prestige, right?
Well, now that was kind of part of what I was what I was trying to address is like, okay, so there was this witnessing of the act that Vidar did, and unbeknownst to Vidar, I'm at Washburn's place telling Lord Washburn that he is the reason why I found out.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I don't know how that might.
Well, and that's a great point. So, if your intention was to alleviate his -1 prestige,
is to alleviate. Yeah, I was trying to alleviate.
Then your prestige would be at 0 as because no one knows Martin wasn't a bad guy except. Well, technically he was. I mean, he was in cahoots with Jerry.
He was in cahoots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, you could have turned him in as a traitor, right? So Martin was ultimately a traitor. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll remedy that prestige. That's not
until word gets around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whenever his son covered of what he did,
Right.
Right.
differently. But until then, yeah.
Right. So at some point, Washburn will talk with his family and his captains and his soldiers about that Viadar guy killing that traitor, and that'll get around the servants, and the servants will spread that in the hall, and that would spread to the. So that's how your prestige would be fixed. Is Washburn would talk about how you had slayed this Martin guy, and so Vidar he can be clueless about his reputation.
Oh yeah,
but your prestige will be remedied because Washburn would share these stories about this Vidar guy who basically killed Martin and saved us from the pagans, right?
Yeah, this is irrelevant. You know, I mean, as far as what my impression of the world is, like I'm thinking that I'm doing the work of Christ and the work of Washburn.
Sure.
And in fact, I am doing Washburn's work.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem is Washburn's
why wouldn't Sylvester be in Why wouldn't Sylvester be in step? He's the only one who's out of step with that whole main thing. He's trying to walk that line, and he's trying to play it. But I'm a loose cannon as far as that. That's why I tried to say at the onset.
Well, and Ethelwald finally figured it out. Washburn is the cause of his own miseries.
Right.
The pagans.
Really,
except for this amassing Viking that has plans, right?
I'm the embodiment of what Washburn is. His fears manifesting,
right?
And walking amongst the people. So I'm doing that according to how my situation. And the odd thing is, I think for Vidar was that moment whenever Ethelwald happened to run right in front of the axe blow and receive it, and that was a shock to the system because. That's when I pulled short and stuff, and I keep seeing this individual come up in front of me. First, I think he's Falcon,
right?
When I want to get it out, and then all of a sudden it's like he's some kind of apparition in my mind. That's what actually pivoted me from I need to follow Sylvester. I'm like, Sylvester's, capable enough. I need to go make sure that this priest, is taken care of. So I love it that we can move in different directions and pass as real people that we're embodying.
Right.
And trying to get our own agendas done.
Were there any mechanical questions or decisions you thought were like the luck check? I just had you make a luck check that you got there just in time, that Vidar hit you.
What's beautiful about the game is it's interpretive.
Did you feel that was fair? That you failed a luck check to get hit by Vidar? Did you feel that was fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I mean, I didn't just declare it. I asked you to fail a luck check to do it, right?
Not only did I fail it, I rolled a straight up 1 on the die.
And you chose and you put yourself in danger.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Okay. I just want to make sure you felt that was fair, right?
Okay. Oh yeah.
You rolling a 1. If I'd have rolled a 12, that would have been double.
Critical.
Yeah, it would have been real bad.
It would have been critical, right? Would have put you in an injured state. Might have affected your attributes, right? Any questions mechanically? Anything confusing that you think I could have done better, or that was?
No, I honestly think it was a great session because of the way that, I mean, just structurally the way the system is meant to function, right? You try and take as little of a hands-on approach. You're not so much directing it,
right?
We don't know what you're doing behind the scenes with the seeds, right? So you've got that.
Yep.
But you're also a little more. It's like having to deal with. Well, it is a player facing roles.
Yes.
So you're just kind of like really emphasizing, hey, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think you're doing a really great job of like trying to move between player and player and player.
Yeah, I'm trying to, and I'm trying to keep it in perspective as far as the timing.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't matter if you guys were all in different. So like next the Chronicles 2, obviously you're going to be in different cities. We're going to have Vidar and Ethelwald in Howardtown.
Yeah.
And Sylvester will be scouting the Viking army, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna be once again, and one of the things Del and I talked about, we came up with this system. Imagine Star Wars, where you really do have Han Solo on one planet, Luke Skywalker across on another planet, and this system will support splitting the party. Matter of fact, it's ideal if it's going to make sense as a grand character arc. I mean, all your characters are
Development, yeah.
actually performing it in an independent way, like characters would in a story or a book or a.
Yeah.
And I think it works. There's those logistics you have to kind of iron out timing wise, or
Yeah.
like this session getting it started. We didn't want to fast forward too much time, but at the same time, we needed to get you guys kind of all in the same place. Right.
Yeah.
We didn't have to, but that.
Well, that's the challenge of any role playing.
That's
session,
true.
I think, right?
The start for me was the most difficult for this session.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is about this system, I think, is that I think there's certain systems where the way that the system is designed, if the characters aren't really all together and all working together, then the mechanics can actually work against the session and against the players and the like, because often they're built with synergies in mind, right? And the other thing I think that is really cool about this is that it reminds me a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse in the sense that its stated goal is really for a narrative style of role play. Right. Where the rules are kind of just there to bolster that. And I think that really, over these two sessions, that's what I felt the most, is that at no time did I feel like the rules or the mechanics of the game hindered me in any way from playing my character.
And probably the only difference, I suppose, again, I've only had a little exposure to PBTA, is we don't, the rules don't support writing it, and then we see mechanically.
No,
the rules support you being characters, and like again, the perfect example is Sylvester saying, "My intention here is to kill the guy in the front to affect the group that's attacking Vidar." So that's perfect because the goal is not just to kill somebody; it's to actually get the attention of the army, and it's that hopefully players play with that idea that, hey, I can affect the actual direction this combat's going, but he has to succeed at the role.
Yeah,
and I love it. I mean, it's like that's what I want to hear. Whether you do it narratively or you flat say, my goal is to split this party, or my goal is to flip these guys around to us, right? Take pressure off. I don't care how you say it. That's the goal. It's like, hey, this is the point. Can you guys stay alive? Can you affect change? And then mechanically, it has to be supported by an actual successful check. But I love that.
Yeah, and I really like. Go ahead, Del.
No. Go ahead. I'm
okay. I was going to say I really like that there isn't necessarily something on the character sheet that you look at and say, okay, well, I need to proceed in this way, because either it limits what you want to do or it sort of informs what you want to do. Sometimes that can be good, but I feel like what this system does is it gives you just enough of the game part of a role-playing game to say, okay, we're all on the same playing field here, so there's no advantage by taking this class versus this class, and you're not stuck with, okay, I have these certain abilities that I can plug in that I have to try to
Can I use diplomacy here? Well, our goal was that you would make your character, and then the attributes support the character that you're trying to be.
Exactly.
So if you say I'm going to be a priest and you use spirit a lot, Del is making a warrior with now improved spirit. He's becoming, in a way, a holy warrior. But the goal is that you play an actual character, and then your attributes should support what you do as a character.
Yeah.
As opposed to be saying, well, all I can do as a fighter is fight.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's a lot of those, like what you're talking about, Sam, too, I totally agree with, is that there is just enough, and it's abstractions, right?
Yes.
Right? Who knows really what 3 really means that. If I actually have to, how much gold, I kind of go through that when I'm having conversations with people about Ironsworn, because there's nothing in that game about collecting treasure or collecting gold and amassing wealth, and so it's very abstracted. And to hit on what you were saying, Jason, it is good to be able to say, as a player, it's good to be able to say, hey, I want to do this one specific thing. I'm going to shoot that guy to maybe I'll have an effect on the rest of them. but I'm not going to dictate
Right. You can't.
what that full effect is going to be.
That's right.
But at least it gives you the option to say, and like I didn't even think
Right.
you would split the group in half, which that's cool. I mean, even if you would have said, hey, you know, 5 of them turn around and come at you guys because they see that we're, you know, Washburn's men. Uh-oh, here comes Lord Mort's spies.
Right.
You know, who knows what's going on there, right?
Yeah.
So,
the goal is just to see you play a character. Again, announce your intentions, whether it's narratively or directly. And then dice rolls will inform me and you, hopefully, that there's some success and how it's going to be a success. For instance, all I knew is I was allowed to turn the premeditated violence upon Ethelwald upon the dais. His successful roll allowed me to turn that onto Falcone, right? Which made total sense, right? Especially the way he, convinced them that they should feel guilty about this. I mean, you've got food in your hands and you're throwing it at people, right? And
that was great. That was great.
Who put you up to this?
After you made me stay up for 36 hours after having to perform it. Yeah.
Like, and who put you up to this? Falcone? Right. You didn't have to say it. You didn't have to say that man put you up to it. They knew who put him up to it, right? Yeah. And so because I'm paying attention, I'm like, oh, they're turning all this rage now onto Falcone, right? It backfired. All of this that was meant to humiliate Ethelwald backfired onto Falcone.
Yeah, right. And it was really interesting because I was thinking about this when he called me up. I was like, oh my God, if this goes the way I think it will go, it's going to be, well, I was like, this is sort of going to be bad either way, because if I succeed and make the authority look bad, that he's also sort of the Washburn's guy, right? He's, his mouthpiece, his justification, so to speak. And then, but if it doesn't go well and I'm humiliated, that's a bit problematic. But what was really interesting for me was that the Christians left, because I didn't actually want them to do that. I wanted them to stay there and either stand in judgment of the thing, or to try to say, well, no, Falcone, why don't you present this man with his last right? Even though they will support the execution, right? Hey, where's where's
I have expected you to. I have expected you to deliver.
I was
salvation
about it,
right?
But and I was going to, but my thought process in this session is that I'm starting to feel, I was getting the feeling like no matter what I did, this event was going to happen. Like this was ordained, that not mechanically, but just based on my character's interpretation of these people. There were largely these very influential zealots in charge of this, and if I wasn't careful, I could end up strung up right with that guy.
Well, that's why I warned you as Rory. If you speak out against, because in a way you're starting to speak out against Washburn's authority, right? And that's going to get you. It's going to get you in big trouble. So that's why Rory was like, "Careful, Ethelwald, what you say here." Right, and this is what I love about the system. I can foreshadow, like Henry foreshadowing that Falcone is working against you. So you shouldn't have been surprised when he was standing on the dais saying some things, and then you shouldn't have been surprised when he invites you up. So those are so I foreshadow some of those dilemmas, those conflicts. And then Rory, I use Rory to basically at some point it's live, so what you say matters, right? Like when he kills Martin, it matters.
Oh yeah,
part of the problem with why murder hoboism occurs in games is nobody ever feels like there is ramifications for those actions.
Right.
And D&D doesn't have them. At some point, like Dungeons and Dragons, guys get so powerful, a GM has to, throw a dragon at them to teach them a lesson, kind of thing. Well, hopefully in a game like this, right? So that was sweet. Now, see, and I got that as so I knew the major dilemma. The major dilemma was that they were going to turn on the Christians in the square and murder Christians if the execution went down. And of course, they weren't going to try to stop the execution. So when you gave the speech, I thought the only way to make sure, in a way, the Christians are rescued is they would ultimately go home.
Yeah.
But what you said made me think they would, because what you were saying was, don't partake in this. This is not what we're about. And so, So I'm thinking, well, I would go home. I would be so ashamed of myself that I would go home.
Exactly.
So I'm thinking, okay, what would I do? I've been so ashamed after I hear my, after I hear my preacher, make me feel bad about myself. I'm going home. I'm gonna go home and kick the dog. You know what I mean?
No.
But that's what's cool about it. There's no right or wrong, and it works. And it was pretty. I thought it works. Right? It's pretty cool.
I want to point out one little thing about something that matters, because even us as characters contending with each other. Whenever Sylvester's there and he's talking with and eyeing Martin.
Yeah.
When he hears the word that what's the other guy was being abducted or taken into custody.
Jules.
I can't remember the Jules. Okay. I can see it in his face. He goes, oh, well, what do I do here? And he goes over to me, Vidar. Keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
Right? I'm supposed to keep an eye on this guy.
Yeah,
right?
you don't know why. You just know you're supposed
for
to.
Protection, for whatever. And then what my interaction with him, he triggers my reaction in that way. But I know that Sylvester had to go like, oh, crap, what do I do with this? So in actual play, you had to make a decision. And you weigh that and you said, okay, you watch him. I'm going to deal with Jules because I know this full situation here. So you had to kind of leave it in my area. And that's what transpired. According to what I have envisioned of what Vidar is going through in his life, and what he's doing, how he perceives you even, and the whole consensus of the town and the leader of the town wanting this. So as far as zealotry, I'm caught up in that, and there's a reason that I'm still like Falcone. Even Ethelwald is a bit different to me because I thought I was, Falcone is the one who indoctrinated me in the first place, right? And then he even dropped that little bit of information on me, if you remember in the first session, about me being aware. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Which I needed. I was so proud of Jason that time. I said, why'd you burn the bodies? And I'm like, good job. You know what I mean? And then we go from there. And I'm like, this really is way in this character.
Sure.
To be like, did I some...
Yeah, you can certainly see Vidar's mental state.
Problem?
Yeah, no doubt. It's Vidar's mental state. You can see it, right? What did you think when I described Martin?
Your direction is perfect.
What did you think when I described Martin as hiding and crying?
I mean, he was, as being an ex-Viking, so what they're doing is awakening the young man in me again. So I'm having a midlife crisis. I'm going back into the area, and I see this as, I'm like, bolster yourself, get up, because I was guilty of it myself. I cried in front of I keep having this Aethelwald jump in front of me and having these moments of revelation where he's making me look inside, but I'm like,
well, and that's what's so amazing because that
I expected him to get up. That was like, come with me, brother. We're going to fight it out of this. And he's just sniveling and whatever.
Well, and that was the point. So he's torn. So first of all, he's been rescued in a way, by Sylvester.
But he's pagan and he's not willing to accept me. And
he was, so out of his the reason and then he's got these pagans pressuring him, So Sylvester in a way saved him and said, okay, listen, you won't be a traitor if you get your shit together. But then these pagans are at the town square and they're making eye contact, and when they're expecting Martin to participate in this murder of
silently judging him,
right? Yeah, and then I describe how he has this conversation, and so Martin at this point's torn. Oh shit, I'm going to have to murder these Christians because what else am I going to do? There's no Sylvester's gone. He's like vanished, and then when you approach and then say to him, let's go get these pagans. He's like, at that point, he's like, God damn it. Everybody keeps asking me for something. Yeah. I am a pagan. And then, of course, it cost him his life. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is amazing. Cause I'm going through the process of what's Martin feeling, because he's being torn between these two factions.
Overwhelmed. Feeling is an axe blade in his back and mud in his mouth. Oh my God.
What the fuck? Vidar, what did you do?
I know.
And this is something that I know very often, like when we're all content creators here.
Yeah.
Right? So one of the things that I know we often see that gets talked about in YouTube videos is like, how do I run a game? How do I run a game?
Mhm.
Yeah.
The thing I like about systems like this, be that if you want to refer to them as kind of having those old school sensibilities, is that, me as a player, I'm not just solely thinking about how my character
Right.
is interfacing with the story. I was trying to create, the connections for other characters too. I want to get Martin to
Yep.
Aethelwald because Sylvester thinks that maybe Aethelwald can help
Big
pull
picture
this
gaming.
down.
I call it
Yeah,
big picture
right.
gaming. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing
And then
wrong with it's nothing wrong with being your character, but keeping an eye on the entire concept.
Yeah.
Right? The whole
Yeah.
big
And I'm
picture's
not-
going down. Yeah.
And I'm definitely not trying to make the story like some Game of Thrones ultimate
No.
convoluted
No,
type
you don't
of,
have to. It'll
thing.
happen naturally. Yeah.
Yeah, it will
Right.
happen naturally, but it's like, hey, it would be if he's here to do that, and Sylvester knows that about Aethelwald, then maybe if I make this connection here,
Mhm.
it will that just by introducing the NPC and the PC, I can take my hands off of that little bit and see what Sam might do with it. I'm
Right.
gonna try and throw a ball into Sam's court for him
Yep.
to play with
Yeah.
for a minute
Yep.
and see what he does with it.
Magic Circle.
Yeah.
I talk about it's Magic Circle gaming, baby. Improvisational
Well, and-
Magic Circle gaming. Yep.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, and I'll have to go after this, but
Yeah.
but what I love about this system and this group, honestly, is that I think what this does is it's ideally suited for a group of experienced gamers and an
GMs.
experienced GM, but experienced in this and trusting of each other,
Yeah,
right? Because I think in too many situations you do find that sort of adversarial thing,
Yeah.
and or you kind of have to be a little bit selfish because the mechanics
Yep.
require you to do a certain thing to be great.
Yep.
And so, where in this, I think what's really great about it is when you have veteran players who understand the idea of creating a collective fiction.
Yep.
And also being able to create tension within
Conflict.
the group, but not and conflict, but not
Mhm.
not in a way that you can say, okay, I trust you. I know that this is going to get bad for my character,
Yep.
but because we're building this story together,
Right.
this is going to be really interesting. I
Yeah.
think that's super ideal for that group. I imagine that this might be really difficult for, let's say, a GM who's only GM'd Pathfinder or only
Right.
GM'd D&D, and not a lot of it, more mechanically based
Yeah.
games than.
Yeah. Well, think about this. I mean,
may be difficult.
there's not a lot of systems, especially when we're talking about Dark Ages fantasy, that
Mhm.
that allow a character to be a completely successful non-combatant.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I can be a
So
cleric
far,
in
yeah.
Pathfinder, but basically I'm a combatant cleric.
Yeah, you have.
You
to.
are
Yeah.
able to have complete success because we have a actual culture that exists, and I have to obey the rules as much as, which is like Rory warning you, don't say anything against Lord Washburn here publicly, buddy, because I'll have to drag you in, right? Because there is a culture that exists, but the point is your character is completely able to have success in a non-combatant way, right?
Like,
and there aren't a lot of games that support non-combat characters.
Right. And what I really like about it is that I feel that conflict of the non-combat priest, but not because of the rules, which is really cool. You know, it's the idea that
you want to engage, but
well, not even that as much as like I can imagine the conflict where it's like you're seeing all of this violence and everyone around you is saying like, you know, oh, do this, or we got to save this person, or here, take this dagger in case you have to, whatever. And then it's like, what do you do in the moment? You know, it's like, what happens if bandits, you know, come up on the wagon and it's just me and the two girls there?
Right. And that's the beautiful thing about our game.
Yeah,
bandits don't have to be, all right, roll initiative in our game.
Yeah, exactly.
It could turn into that, but it doesn't have to be, okay, roll initiative. right?
Right.
In any other
Yeah.
game, bandits are trying to take you hostage. Well, I guess you could throw your hands in the air and give up to the bandits, right? And then it would,
Well, right, but then in many systems, it's like, well, you look at them as pools of XP. So it's like,
Right.
oh, great, we get
Yeah.
to fight,
Yeah.
and I get to use the 6 abilities that I have here
Right,
that all
right.
make me amazing in combat.
right.
Like, here we go, let's do this, right? Where in my case, like, so I would feel that tension of not using those abilities because then
Correct.
it's like, what's the point? Where with this, it's like, no, I'm just a
Yeah.
guy. I
Yeah.
just happen to do some really cool things.
Yeah. Well, and
But
we
not
had a
because
great
of the
example
mechanics.
today
Yeah.
of how you can earn repute and it not be a heroic thing, as Vidar
Right.
earned repute for performing an act, which in many eyes will be, because he killed pagans that were enemies.
Mhm.
But to some people, like
Yeah.
you guys, your reaction told you what some
were
people
like,
would have thought, right?
Ugh.
If you're feeling
Yeah.
that way, other people walking by or on horses are going, holy shit, that guy just chased him down and hacked him down, and they all know Martin, right? Martin's been part of
Right.
this village, and he's been part of the arms, and
Yeah.
so you can earn repute and become an outlaw, so to speak, or at least
Yeah.
for dastardly deeds too. So in a way, it was a great example of how can you earn repute,
Yeah.
and that's not
And I
necessarily
like
a
that
good
there
thing,
were-
depending, but it
doesn't
didn't destroy
conflict
Vidar.
with-
It didn't destroy the
Yeah.
session, right?
Right, and
No.
it doesn't conflict
Yeah.
with any mechanics that would then be like, oh, well, now your character is going to be less effective
Right.
mechanically.
Right.
Your
Yeah.
character may be less effective because of the role-playing decisions
Right,
that you
right.
make.
Well-
or they might not be. They might be more effective.
right.
So it's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So I like
for
that.
instance, having the effect on the prestige will affect him, but
Yeah.
Dar understood it.
Right.
So he actually,
Right.
in a way, gains a relationship with Dar, but becomes a negative. Of course, that's going to be remedied through the conversations Washburn has with people about this Vidar. Anybody know this Vidar guy? I heard he, So it's that's what's so cool about the system. Prestige is an abstract concept, but
Yeah, because
Yeah.
perception
Yes.
it can be different across
Right.
borders
Yep.
or whatever.
Yeah.
But they know that if you some magnitude of prestige for whatever you did, whether somebody agrees with it or not,
right.
is there. That
Right.
way you can still throw your weight around.
And if you again writing this game and the concepts of prestige, if you've watched The Last Kingdom, if you imagine these are characters from Last Kingdom, you know what prestige is, right? You know, as a viewer of, let's say, Last Kingdom, because as an audience member, the prestige of the characters you become interested in grow to the audience. Maybe don't grow, like, for instance, I'm trying to think of, the priest that was basically Uhtred's surrogate father. He was literally the father and Uhtred's father. What's his
Right.
name?
Oh, it's been a while.
The first
Yeah, I can't
first priest who ends up taking an arrow to save. Yeah. But the point is, his prestige grows in the show among his allies and among the people who know him, even though he isn't bishop of the church. He's not actually growing, but in a fiction way, he becomes a very important piece of Uhtred's story, Uhtred's friends, Uhtred's allies, and in a way that's how it's meant to work. Ethelwald, you're an 8. You may not be the bishop, but your character's clout definitely grows, right? Falcone,
and that's
Falcone
fun because then
probably
it's like
will
you
never
don't have the
challenge
power,
you again,
but
right?
Well,
He'll undermine you as one of those grimy little
villains.
villains that undermines the
Right.
He'll do it,
Yeah.
but he won't do it face to face, right?
Yeah.
He'll do it from behind
Right.
closed doors or undermine
Like
you.
he's got the
Right.
he's got the backing and the
Right.
sort of
The
the
position.
tools to do dastardly things.
So
I have the popularity, and so it's like what
Yep.
that conflict. Then how does that work out? But
and that's
well,
so that's
gentlemen,
part
I'm
of the
sorry to
yeah.
interrupt. I
Let's
have to go.
Yeah, we should.
My family's waiting for me,
Yep.
but I loved this session, and
Thank
I
you.
cannot wait for the next.
it
one.
was great
You're
fun,
welcome,
man. I can't
That was a
believe
great plan.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
One seed,
Yeah,
basically.
amazing.
Jules getting arrested. The rest was all the major dilemma. Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Thanks, gents. It was fun.
Take it easy, guys.